I keep a lot of things in this office that most doctors would have thrown out years ago. Old surgical tools I don't use anymore. Bottles of medicine that went out of fashion. A cracked leather bag that's seen more miles than most men I know. But the thing I keep coming back to is a journal. Brown leather. Pages yellow with age. My own handwriting from 8 years ago when my hand was steadier and my conscience was quieter. I opened it this morning. Don't know why. Maybe because it's summer again and the heat reminds me. Maybe because I saw Wade Hart ride through town yesterday and the sight of him still makes my stomach turn. The entry is from July 1887, middle of the page underlined twice like I wanted to make sure I'd remember it. Patient E.H., age 19, injuries consistent with severe physical assault, contusions to ribs, pelvis, upper thighs, defensive wounds on forearms. Patient refused examination of certain areas. Father notified. Do not file official report per father's request. And then in smaller writing at the bottom like I was ashamed to write it bigger. God forgive me. I stare at those words now and I remember everything. The heat that summer. The dust that got into everything. The way a man named Caleb McCrae stood in my doorway with a young woman in his arms and changed the course of more lives than he could have known. People ask me sometimes about that summer. They want to know what really happened. Why the town split the way it did. Why some folks still won't speak to each other even now. I tell them it's complicated. But that's a lie. It wasn't complicated at all. It was simple as choosing between what's right and what's easy. Between speaking up and staying silent. Between saving a life and saving your own comfort. I chose wrong at first. That's the truth I carry. But Caleb McCrae didn't. And that's the story worth telling. It started on a Tuesday, hottest day of July. The kind of heat that makes a man question why anyone ever settled in Arizona territory in the first place. I was in my office windows open trying to catch any breeze that might take pity on an old doctor. Tuba City doesn't get much wind in summer, mostly just hot air pushing hot air around. That's when I heard the horse. Coming fast. Fast usually means trouble in my line of work. I stepped to the window and saw him. Big man on a gray horse. Caleb McCrae. I knew him a little. Rancher from up near Kayenta. Kept to himself mostly. Paid his bills. Never caused problems. But the way he was riding hunched forward like he was protecting something that wasn't normal. He pulled up in front of my office, and I saw what he was carrying. A woman. Young. Wrapped in his coat despite the heat. Her face was turned into his chest, like she was trying to disappear. I opened the door before he could knock. "Dr. Garrett," he said. His voice was rough. Not from shouting, from barely holding himself together. "I need your help." I stepped back. "Bring her in." He carried her through the doorway, careful as a man carrying water in his bare hands. Every movement measured, every step deliberate. The way she flinched when her body shifted told me she was in serious pain. "Put her on the examination table," I said. Kept my voice calm, professional. That's what people need when they're scared. Someone who sounds like they know what they're doing. Caleb laid her down gentle. So gentle it almost hurt to watch. She made a sound. Not a scream. Something quieter and worse. The sound of someone who'd learned that screaming doesn't help. That's when I got my first good look at her. Young woman. 19, maybe 20. Dark hair matted with sweat and dust. Dress torn in places. Face pale except for a bruise starting to show along her jawline. But it was her eyes that stopped me. Wide, glassy. Looking everywhere and nowhere at once. The kind of eyes you see on animals caught in wire. "What happened?" I asked Caleb, still keeping my voice level. "Found her out past the grazing land," he said. "Face down in the grass. Don't know how long she'd been there." The young woman's breathing hitched. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. White knuckles. Shaking fingers. "Miss," I said, speaking directly to her now, "my name is Dr. Samuel Garrett. I need to examine you to see where you're hurt. Is that all right?" She didn't answer. Just stared at the ceiling like she'd found something up there worth studying. I looked at Caleb. He looked back at me. We both understood without saying it. This wasn't a fall from a horse. This wasn't an accident. I pulled a chair over and sat down, eye level with her, not looming, not crowding. I'm going to need to check your injuries, I said, but I won't touch you without your permission. And if you want him to leave, I nodded toward Caleb, he'll leave. This is your choice. That got a reaction, small, but real. Her eyes shifted to me, just for a second, like she was testing whether I meant it. He didn't hurt me, she whispered, voice thin as paper. He found me. He didn't hurt me. I believe you, I said, and I did. Caleb was standing against the wall now, as far from the table as he could get while still being in the room, hands loose at his sides, non-threatening. What's your name, miss? I asked. Long silence. Then Eliza. Eliza, I repeated. That's a good name. Eliza, I can see you're hurt. I need to check how badly. Can you tell me where it hurts most? Her eyes filled with tears. She turned her head away. Everywhere, she said. Everywhere there. The way she said there told me everything I needed to know. And everything I didn't want to know. I stood up slow, moved to my medicine cabinet, gave her time to breathe, gave myself time to think. I'd been a frontier doctor for 30 years. I'd seen knife wounds and bullet wounds and broken bones and diseases that didn't have names yet. I'd seen what men did to each other in fights and what accidents did to men who worked with horses and cattle. But the injuries women came to me with, the ones they whispered about, the ones they asked me not to write down, those were different. Those had a particular look, a particular pattern. I turned back with clean cloths and a basin of water. Eliza, I'm going to examine the visible injuries first. Your face, your arms, the areas I can see. If I need to check anywhere else, I'll ask permission, and you can say no. You understand? She nodded. Barely. But it was a nod. I worked slow, methodical, starting with her face, light bruising along her jaw, scratch marks on her neck. Not deep, but angry. Her arms showed defensive wounds, forearm bruises, the kind you get when you're trying to protect yourself from blows. I'm going to check your ribs now, I said. I need you to take a deep breath for me. She tried, gasped halfway through, pressed her hand to her left side, broken or badly bruised, maybe both. Eliza, I said, keeping my voice gentle, I need to examine your legs and your lower body. That's where you seem to be in the most pain, but I need your permission. She squeezed her eyes shut. Tears ran down into her hair. He'll see, she whispered. He'll see and he'll think. I'll turn around, Caleb said. His voice came from the wall. Quiet, steady. I'll face the wall and I won't turn around until the doctor says. You have my word. I glanced at him. He was already turning, facing the corner like a schoolboy in punishment, hands behind his back. Eliza looked at me, really looked at me, searching my face for the lie she expected. Just you, she asked. Just me, I said. And I'll only look at what I need to see to help you. Nothing more. She nodded again, this time with something that might have been trust, or might have been exhaustion. Sometimes they look the same. I'll spare you the clinical details. That's not the kind of thing that needs repeating. But I'll tell you what I found. Severe bruising to the hips and upper thighs. Internal injuries I couldn't fully assess without causing more pain. Evidence of trauma, recent trauma, hours old, not days. And I'll tell you what I thought as I worked. What I knew with the certainty that comes from 3 decades of seeing the worst people do to each other. Someone had hurt this young woman, badly, deliberately, recently, and whoever did it had done it before. Because injuries like that don't come from a first-time loss of control. They come from practice, from knowing exactly where to hurt someone so it doesn't show in public. I covered her back up with a clean sheet, gave her dignity back as best I could. You can turn around now, Mr. McCrae, I said. Caleb turned, looked at me, didn't ask questions, just waited. Eliza, I said, pulling my chair close again, you've been seriously hurt. You need rest. You need clean water and food, and you need time to heal. I can't go home, she said, fast, panic rising in her voice. "I can't. Please, I can't go back there." "Where is home?" I asked, though I was starting to suspect. "The Hart place," she whispered. "Wade Hart. He's my stepfather." The room went very quiet. Wade Hart. I knew that name. Everyone in the territory knew that name. Respected rancher, pillar of the community, donated money to the church, helped build the new schoolhouse, lost his wife a few years back and married again, took in his new wife's daughter like she was his own. That was the story everyone knew. But sitting there looking at Eliza's injuries, I was starting to understand there might be another story, one that didn't get told at church socials. "Does he know you're here?" I asked. "No." She gripped the sheet. "He'll find me. He always finds me." I looked at Caleb. He looked at me. We both knew what was being asked without either of us saying it. "She can stay at my place," Caleb said. Quiet, final, like he'd already made the decision before I asked. "Got a spare room. She'll be safe." "Mr. McCrae," I said, choosing my words careful. "Wade Hart is a powerful man around here. You take his stepdaughter without his permission, there'll be trouble." "I know," Caleb said. "Legal trouble," I added. "Sheriff kind of trouble." "I know that too," he said. His eyes didn't waver. "Still doing it." I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him to think it through, wanted to explain that sometimes the right thing is also the stupid thing and a man has to know the difference. But then I looked at Eliza, really looked at her. 19 years old and trying to disappear into a sheet on my examination table. And I thought about Margaret Hart, Wade's first wife, the one who died 5 years ago, the one I'd treated 3 times for accidents. Broken ribs from a fall, bruised kidneys from a stumble, facial trauma from running into a door. I'd believed him, or told myself I believed him, because Wade Hart was respected and respectable. And who was I to question a man like that? Margaret died from complications of a fall down the stairs. Internal bleeding. I signed the death certificate. Accidental death. I could have said something then, could have asked questions, could have refused to sign. I didn't. And now here was another young woman with the same kinds of injuries, in the same man's house. I opened my mouth to speak, to say something that might save my conscience, might preserve my comfortable relationship with the powerful people in town, but what came out was, "I'll need to check on her in a couple days, make sure there's no infection setting in." Caleb nodded once, understanding what I was really saying. I was choosing. Maybe not loudly, maybe not bravely, but I was choosing. "Thank you, doctor," he said. I helped Eliza sit up. She moved like every inch cost her. Caleb offered his arm. She looked at it like it might bite. "I won't touch you," he said, "unless you need me to. Just here if you need something to steady yourself." She studied his face, looking for the lie, the trap, the moment when helping would turn into hurting. Whatever she saw there, it must have satisfied something, because she reached out, not taking his arm, just touching his sleeve, barely, like she was testing whether the fabric was safe. They made their way to the door like that, him walking slow, her holding his sleeve at arm's length, a strange dance of trust and terror. At the door, Caleb stopped, looked back at me. "If someone comes asking," he said, "someone official." "I'll tell them I treated a patient," I said. Patient confidentiality prevents me from saying more. It was a flimsy shield. We both knew it. But it was something. They left. I watched from the window as Caleb helped Eliza onto his horse. She flinched when he steadied her, but she let him. That was progress. Small, but real. They rode out slow, east toward Kayenta, toward whatever came next. I stood there long after they disappeared, looking at my empty office, at the basin of bloodied water, at my hands that had examined her injuries and done nothing to punish the man who caused them. Then I sat down and wrote that entry in my journal. the one I've read 100 times since. Do not file official report per father's request. Except Wade Hart hadn't requested anything. Because Wade Hart didn't know his stepdaughter was in my office. Didn't know I'd seen the evidence of what he'd done. I wrote that line to cover myself. To give myself an excuse for the silence I was about to maintain. God forgive me. Because I knew right then, sitting in that office on that hot Tuesday in July, I knew I was making the same choice I'd made 5 years ago with Margaret. I was staying quiet, staying safe, letting a powerful man's secrets stay secret. The only difference this time was Caleb McRae. He wasn't staying quiet, he wasn't staying safe. And watching him ride away with that terrified young woman, I knew with absolute certainty that his choice was going to cost him everything. I just didn't know yet that it would also give me a second chance to make mine. The ranch house sat about 10 miles northeast of Tuba City. Not much to look at if you weren't looking for much. Weathered wood, tin roof, corral out back, water pump that worked when it felt like it. Caleb had built it himself 15 years ago, back when he thought he'd fill it with a family, children running in the yard, a wife's voice calling everyone to supper. That hadn't happened, but he'd kept the house anyway, kept it clean, kept it standing. Because what else was a man supposed to do? He helped Eliza down from the horse. She made that sound again, the one that wasn't quite pain and wasn't quite fear, something in between. Easy, he said, not touching her, just close enough to catch if she fell. We'll get you inside. The front door stuck a little in the heat, always did in summer. He shouldered it open and stepped back, letting her enter first, letting her see the space before she committed to it. She stood in the doorway, eyes moving, reading the room like it was a test she might fail. Table, 2 chairs, small stove, window with faded curtains. Bedroom's through there, Caleb said, pointing to a door on the right. It's clean. Sheets are fresh. Door locks from the inside. She looked at him. That same searching look she'd given the doctor. You can lock me out any time you want, he said, making sure she heard it. Your choice, your space. He walked past her, giving her wide berth, and opened the bedroom door. Small room, narrow bed, window facing east. Nothing fancy, but it was private. I'll sleep out here, he said, gesturing to the main room. Got a bedroll, done it before. Door stays cracked if you want, or closed if you don't. Your call. Eliza moved to the bedroom door, looked inside, looked back at him. Why? She asked, voice still thin, still waiting for the trap. Why are you helping me? Caleb was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. He could have said a lot of things, could have talked about duty or decency, or the simple fact that leaving her would have been worse. But what he said was, because it's right. And because I should have helped someone else once and didn't. Not making that mistake again. It wasn't much of an explanation, but it was honest. Eliza nodded slowly, like she was testing whether honesty was something she could trust. She stepped into the bedroom. Caleb heard the door close, heard the lock slide home, the metal sound of a woman taking back the smallest piece of control. He let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Day 1. She was alive. She was safe. That would have to be enough for now. Caleb set about making the house livable for 2 people instead of 1. He fetched water from the pump, set it in a basin near the bedroom door, left clean cloth beside it. He checked the cupboard. Not much. Beans, dried meat, hard bread, coffee, the staples of a man who ate to survive, not to enjoy. He put coffee on to boil anyway, something normal, something that might smell like safety instead of fear. While the coffee heated, he sat at the table and thought about what he'd just done. Really thought about it, not the feeling of it, the practical reality. He'd taken Wade Hart's stepdaughter, against her stepfather's knowledge, against any kind of legal authority. Wade would come looking. Of course he would. Men like Wade didn't lose things without making noise about it, and when he came he'd bring law, or what passed for law out here. Deputy Larkin, maybe Sheriff Davis from Flagstaff if Wade wanted to make it official. Caleb would need help. Real help. The kind you couldn't buy and couldn't fake. He pulled out paper and a stub of pencil, started writing. Slow. Caleb wasn't much for letters, but this one mattered. Marshall Rudd. Flagstaff. It's Caleb McCrae, the man who pulled you out of the winter wash in '82. You said you owed me. I'm calling that debt. Need you to come to Tuba City. Can't explain in writing, but it's life and death and I need a lawman I can trust. Come when you can. I'll be at my ranch east of town. He folded it, sealed it with a little wax from a candle. Tomorrow he'd ride it to the trading post, find someone heading north, get it to Rudd, if Rudd remembered, if he honored the debt, if he came in time, a lot of ifs. But Caleb had learned long ago that most of life was ifs. You did what you could and hoped the rest fell into place. The coffee boiled over. Caleb cursed softly and moved it off the heat, poured a cup, set another cup near the bedroom door with a little water in it. Lukewarm. Safe. "There's coffee if you want it," he called. Not loud, just loud enough to reach through the door. "And water. I'm going to step outside. Do some work around the place. You need anything, you holler." No answer. But he didn't expect one. He took his coffee out to the porch, sat on the step, watched the sun slide toward the western hills. It was still hot. Would be hot for hours yet. But the light was changing, softening, turning everything red and gold. Caleb sipped his coffee and thought about Sarah, his wife. Dead 11 years now, buried in a little plot near the house. Just a stone with her name and the years. Nothing fancy. He'd failed her. That was the simple truth of it. Failed her when she needed him most. She'd been hurt by a man. Not Wade Hart. Different man. Different story. But the same pattern. Caleb had known. He'd seen the bruises, heard her excuses, watched her flinch when certain names were mentioned. And he'd done nothing. Told himself it wasn't his business. Told himself Sarah would ask if she needed help. Told himself 100 comforting lies while his wife suffered. By the time he understood what was really happening, it was too late. Internal bleeding from a beating disguised as a fall. She died in their bed, holding his hand, asking him to promise. "Promise me," she'd whispered, voice going, "if you ever see this happening to another woman, don't stay silent. Promise." He'd promised, and then spent 11 years finding ways not to keep it. Until today, until a young woman face down in the grass made keeping that promise unavoidable. Caleb finished his coffee, stood, stretched. His back wasn't what it used to be. His knees complained more than they should. Getting old, getting slower, not the best condition for the kind of trouble that was coming. But he'd made a promise to a dying woman, and now he was keeping it, even if it killed him. The sun was nearly down when he heard the bedroom door open. Just a crack. He didn't turn around, didn't want to spook her. "Mr. McCrae," her voice, quiet, testing. "That's me," he said, still not turning. "You can call me Caleb if you want." "The water." "Thank you." "You're welcome." Silence. Then, "Are you really going to sleep out here?" "Yes, ma'am." "Why?" "Because you need to know you're safe," he said. "Can't know that if I'm close by, so I'll be out here. Door stays cracked so I can hear if you need something, but I won't come in unless you ask." More silence. He could hear her breathing, thinking. "My mother used to make coffee," she said. So quiet he almost missed it. "Before she died. It smelled like this." Caleb nodded, even though she couldn't see it. "Good coffee smells like home," he said. "Bad coffee smells like punishment. I try to split the difference." That got something that might have been a laugh. Small, damaged, but real. "I'm going to close the door now," she said. "All right. But thank you. For the water. For everything. You're welcome, Eliza." The door closed. Not locked this time. Just closed. Caleb sat on that porch until full dark came, until the stars came out thick and bright, until the desert cooled enough to breathe. Then he went inside, unrolled his bedding, lay down on the floor near the front door. He didn't sleep much, kept listening, for the sound of her crying, for the sound of her screaming, for the sound of horses approaching. None of those sounds came, just the normal night sounds of the desert. Wind, distant coyotes, the house settling. Around midnight he heard her moving, the creak of the bed, the soft pad of bare feet on wood. He kept his breathing steady, pretended to be asleep, giving her privacy to move around without feeling watched. He heard water pouring, heard her washing, heard the tiny sounds of a woman trying to put herself back together in the dark. Then silence, then the bedroom door closing again. Caleb stared at the ceiling and thought about tomorrow, and the day after, and all the days that would follow until Wade Hart came to reclaim what he thought belonged to him. It was going to get worse before it got better. Caleb knew that with the certainty of a man who'd seen how these things played out. But for tonight Eliza was safe. For tonight she could sleep without fear of the man who'd hurt her. That would have to be enough. Day one was done. I rode out to Caleb's place on Thursday, 2 days after he'd brought Eliza to my office. I told myself it was a professional follow-up, making sure her injuries weren't getting infected, checking for complications. But the truth was simpler. I wanted to see if she was still alive. Wanted to know if Wade Hart had already found her, already dragged her back, already finished what he'd started. The ride out from Tuba City was hot and dusty. Same as every summer ride. My horse knew the way. We'd made this trip before. Different patients, different reasons. Same endless landscape. I found Caleb in his yard mending fence, shirt soaked through with sweat, hat pulled low against the sun. He saw me coming, straightened, wiped his hands on his pants, waited. "Doctor," he said when I got close, voice neutral. "Careful." "Mr. McCrae," I replied. "Came to check on the patient." He nodded toward the house. "She's inside, ain't come out much." I dismounted, tied my horse, grabbed my medical bag. "How is she?" I asked. Low voice, the kind you use when you're afraid of the answer. "Scared," Caleb said. Simple, true. "Jumpy, won't eat much, sleeps in pieces." I nodded, expected, normal even, if anything about this situation could be called normal. "She trust you yet?" Caleb thought about that. "Trust's a big word," he said. "She ain't locked the bedroom door since first night. That's something." It was something. Small, but real. I walked toward the house. Caleb stayed in the yard, giving space, letting me do my work. I knocked on the door frame, soft, like I was asking permission to enter my own church. "Eliza, it's Dr. Garrett. Come to check on you." Silence. Then a voice from inside. "The door's open." I pushed it open slow, let my eyes adjust to the dimness. The house was cooler than outside, but not by much. Windows open to catch whatever breeze might come. Eliza was sitting at the table, hands folded, like a student waiting for class to start. She was wearing a different dress, one of Caleb's work shirts over it for modesty, hair pulled back. She looked pale, tired, but alive, alert. "How are you feeling?" I asked, setting my bag down gentle, not rushing. "Sore," she said, honest. "Everything hurts." "That's normal. The body takes time to heal." I pulled out a chair, sat across from her, eye level. "Mind if I check those ribs?" She hesitated, then nodded. I moved slow, professional, talking through each step before I did it. No surprises, no sudden movements. Her ribs were badly bruised but not broken. Breathing was shallow but regular. The bruising on her face had darkened, purple and yellow, ugly but healing. "You're mending," I said, slowly, but mending. "How long?" she asked. "Until you feel normal weeks, maybe months." I packed my instruments back into the bag. Bodies heal faster than memories. She looked at me. Really looked. Reading my face the way she'd been reading Caleb's. Looking for judgment, for disgust, for the thing that would tell her I was like the others. "You know who did this," she said. Not a question. A statement. I could have lied, could have pretended professional ignorance, could have hidden behind medical ethics, but I was tired of lying. "I have suspicions," I said. "Wade?" "Yes." She flinched at his name, like saying it out loud gave him power. "He'll come for me." "I expect he will." "What will you do?" Her voice shook. "When he asks if you've seen me, what will you tell him?" I thought about that. Thought about Margaret Hart. About the 3 times I'd treated her and the 1 time I'd signed her death certificate. Thought about all the times I'd chosen safety over truth. "I'll tell him the truth," I said, "that I treated a patient, and that patient confidentiality prevents me from saying more. He won't accept that." "No," I agreed. "He won't." We sat in silence for a moment, 2 people who understood exactly how bad this was going to get. "Why is Mr. McCrae helping me?" she asked. "He doesn't know me. I could be lying. I could be what Wade will say I am. What will Wade say you are?" Confused, dramatic, making things up for attention. Her voice went flat, dead, like she'd heard these words so many times they'd lost their sting. A troubled girl who needs to come home so her loving father can take care of her. I nodded. I'd heard Wade use that kind of language before. Smooth, reasonable. The language of a concerned parent. Not a monster. "Caleb's helping because it's the right thing to do," I said. "People don't do the right thing," Eliza said, bitter. "Not when it costs them something." "Some people do," I said. "Not many, but some." She looked toward the window, toward where Caleb was still working in the yard, mending fence that probably didn't need mending, staying busy, staying visible, letting her know where he was at all times. "I don't know how to trust that," she whispered. "You don't have to trust it all at once," I said. "Just trust it today, then tomorrow, then the day after, small pieces." She nodded, eyes still on the window. I stood, picked up my bag. "I'll come back in a few days. Check on the healing. You need anything before then, send word." "Doctor," she turned to look at me. "When Wade comes, and he will come, will you stand with Mr. McCrae?" There it was. The question I'd been avoiding since Tuesday. The one that would decide what kind of man I was going to be. I thought about my journal entry, about the words I'd written, about the choice I'd made 5 years ago with Margaret. "Yes," I said, "when Wade comes, I'll stand with Caleb." It wasn't much, just 1 word, just one old doctor who'd already failed once. But I saw something change in Eliza's face. Not hope, not yet, but maybe the possibility of hope. The idea that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone. I left her there, walked back outside where Caleb was coiling wire. "She's healing," I said. "Physically, anyway. The rest is going to take time." Caleb nodded. "Figured." "Wade's going to come looking," I said. "Sooner rather than later. You ready for that?" "No," Caleb said, honest. "But I'm doing it anyway." I almost smiled. Almost. "You sent word to anyone who might stand with you when he does?" "Sent a letter north," Caleb said. "Marshall, I knew once, owed me a favor. If he comes, we'll have law on our side, real law. And if he doesn't—" Caleb looked at me. Tired eyes, old eyes, but clear. "Then we do it anyway." I understood that. Understood the kind of stubbornness it took to stand against a man like Wade Hart without guarantee of help, without promise of victory. "I'll stand with you," I said. "When it comes to it, I'll testify to what I saw." Caleb's expression shifted. Something like gratitude. something like relief. "Thank you, doctor." "Don't thank me yet," I said. "Haven't done anything worth thanking." But I would. That's what I promised myself riding back to Tuba City. When the moment came when Wade Hart demanded his stepdaughter back, I wouldn't stay silent. Not this time. I'd failed Margaret. But I wouldn't fail Eliza, even if it cost me every comfortable relationship I had in this town. Some debts can only be paid forward. Days 3 and 4 followed a pattern. Not a happy pattern, but a pattern nonetheless. Caleb told me about it later, sitting in my office, drinking bad coffee, trying to make sense of what was happening to both of them. Eliza stayed in the bedroom most of the time, door open now, but only barely, like she wanted the option of slamming it shut if needed. Caleb worked, fence mending, checking water, feeding the horses, the normal work of a ranch that wasn't really normal anymore because nothing felt normal. Every morning he made coffee, set a cup near her door, retreated to the porch. Every morning the cup was empty when he came back inside. Small ritual, small trust, but it was something. On day 3 he heard her moving around mid-morning, the creak of the floor, the sound of the water basin. She was washing, taking care of herself. He stayed outside, gave her privacy, counted fence posts that didn't need counting just to keep his hands busy. When he came back in for lunch, she was sitting at the table, just sitting, hands folded, like she'd mustered all her courage just to be in the main room. "Afternoon," he said, kept his voice normal, like finding her there was the most natural thing in the world. "Afternoon," she replied, barely audible. He moved to the stove, started heating beans, cut some bread. Nothing fancy, but it was food. "You hungry?" he asked. "A little." He dished out 2 portions, set one in front of her, took his to the other side of the table, as far away as he could get while still being in the same room. They ate in silence. Not comfortable silence, but not terrified silence either. Somewhere in between. After a few minutes, Eliza spoke. "The fence. Is it broken?" "No," Caleb admitted. "Just needed something to do." "So you're mending fence that isn't broken?" "Yes, ma'am." She almost smiled. Almost. "That's stupid." "Probably," he agreed. They went back to eating, but something had shifted. Some invisible wall had gotten a little thinner. That night Caleb heard her crying, soft, muffled, like she was trying not to be heard. He stayed where he was, on his bedroll, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of someone trying to cry quietly. He wanted to help, wanted to say something comforting, wanted to make it better, but he knew better, knew that some crying needs to happen alone, that some grief can't be comforted by strangers. So he just listened, and let her have her privacy, and tried not to feel useless. Day 4 started the same. Coffee, separate spaces, Caleb outside, Eliza inside. But around mid-morning he heard the door open, heard footsteps on the porch. He looked up from the bridle he was mending. Eliza stood in the doorway, hand on the frame, like she needed something solid to hold on to. "Can I—" She stopped, started again. "Can I sit out here while you work?" "Of course," Caleb said, tried to keep the surprise out of his voice. "Porch is yours any time you want it." She sat on the top step, far from him, but outside, in the sun, breathing air that wasn't trapped in a small room. Caleb went back to his bridle, didn't stare, didn't make a fuss, just worked. They stayed like that for maybe 20 minutes, him working, her sitting, the desert stretching out in front of them. Then Eliza spoke. "My mother used to sit like this, on the porch, watching the sky." Caleb nodded, didn't interrupt, let her talk or not talk, her choice. "She died when I was 16, Eliza continued. "Fever. Took her in 3 days. I'm sorry. Wade was different before she died. Or maybe I just didn't see it, didn't want to see it." Her voice went distant, remembering. "After she was gone there was no one to—" She stopped, couldn't finish. Caleb set down the bridle, looked at her, not pity, not judgment, just seeing. "Your mother would be proud of you," he said. Eliza looked at him, confused. Why I ran. I'm a coward. You survived, Caleb said. Takes more courage to survive than most people know. And you're still here, still fighting. That's not cowardice. Tears welled up, but she didn't look away this time. Just let them come. I don't feel brave. Brave people usually don't, Caleb said. They just do what needs doing and worry about feeling later. They sat together until the sun got too hot. Then Eliza stood, slow, like her body was still learning to move without pain. Thank you, she said, for the porch. It's your porch too, Caleb said, long as you need it. She went inside, but she left the door wide open. And that afternoon when Caleb made coffee, she came out and sat on the step again. Same spot, same silence, but comfortable now, or closer to comfortable. Small steps. That's how healing works, Caleb told me later. Not big dramatic moments, just small steps, one after another. Until the distance traveled adds up to something. Day 5 brought rain. Not much, just enough to cool things down, make the air smell like dust and water. Eliza stood on the porch watching it. First time Caleb had seen her smile. Really smile. I used to love rain, she said. Used to. Wade hated it, said it made the roads muddy, made work harder. She held out her hand, let the drops hit her palm. I learned to hate it too, because he did. Caleb came to stand beside her, not close, but nearby. You can love it again, he said. Takes time, but you can get back the things he took. She looked at him, rain in her hair now, making it curl. You really believe that? I have to, he said. Otherwise, what's the point? They watched the rain together until it stopped, which wasn't long. Desert rain never lasted. But for those few minutes, Eliza looked young, looked her age, not like someone who'd survived something terrible, just like a young woman watching rain. It was the first time Caleb thought maybe she'd be all right. Not now, not soon, but eventually. That night, Caleb was surprised when Eliza came out of the bedroom with a blanket. She settled into the chair near the stove, not saying anything, just sitting. He was by the table checking his supplies, making a list of things he'd need from town eventually. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Why did you really help me? Not the answer you gave before. The real reason. Caleb set down his pencil, thought about how to explain it, thought about Sarah, about promises, about regret that followed a man for years. I had a wife, he said. Long time ago. She was hurt by someone. I knew about it. Didn't do anything. Told myself it wasn't my business. That she'd tell me if she wanted help. He paused. Memory was sharp even after all these years. She died, he continued, from injuries that looked like accidents but weren't. Right before she passed, she made me promise. Promise that if I ever saw it happening to another woman, I wouldn't stay silent. Eliza was quiet, listening. I promised, Caleb said, and then spent 11 years finding ways not to keep it, until I found you, face down in the grass, and I realized I couldn't break that promise again, couldn't live with myself if I did. So Eliza's voice was small. You keeping a promise to a dead woman? No, Caleb said, quick, firm. You're a person who deserves help. The promise just made it so I couldn't look away, couldn't pretend I didn't see. That's all. She nodded slowly, processing. What was her name, your wife? Sarah. I'm sorry that you lost her. Me too, Caleb said. Every day. They sat in companionable silence after that, the kind that happens when people share hard truths, not comfortable, but honest. Around 10, Eliza stood, folded her blanket. Good night, Caleb, she said. It was the first time she'd used his first name, small thing, but it mattered. Good night, Eliza. She went to her room, closed the door, but he heard it. The absence of the lock sliding home. Day 6. Caleb rode into town. Had to. Needed supplies. Needed to mail that letter to Marshall Rudd. Needed to hear what people were saying. He left early, before Eliza woke, left a note on the table. Gone to town. Back by afternoon. You're safe. Door locks from inside. Gun in the cabinet if you need it. Hope you don't. Tuba City was quiet when he arrived. Morning quiet. Before the heat made people mean. He hitched his horse outside the general store, went in, started gathering what he needed: coffee, flour, salt, dried meat. Ben Holloway ran the store. Good man. Quiet. Kept to himself mostly. Morning, Caleb, Ben said. Polite, but his eyes were careful. Ben? Heard you picked up a stray, Ben said. Casual, like they were talking about livestock. Young woman. Caleb kept loading supplies into his saddlebag. Word travels fast. Always does in a small town. Ben leaned on the counter. Wade Hart's been asking around. Says his stepdaughter ran off. Says she's confused. Needs to come home. That's so. People are talking. Wondering why a rancher like you would get involved in family business. Caleb met Ben's eyes. Because it's not family business. It's a young woman needing help. Ben was quiet for a moment. Then he said low enough that no one else could hear. My daughter was 17 when she left town. 10 years ago. Never said why. Just left. Caleb waited, sensing there was more. Found out later, Ben continued. From letters, from friends. She'd been hurt. By someone here. Someone respected. He swallowed hard. I didn't see it. Didn't want to see it. And by the time I knew she was gone, won't even write me anymore. I'm sorry, Caleb said. Don't be sorry, Ben said. Just don't let Wade take that girl back. Whatever you got to do, don't let him take her. Caleb nodded, understanding. He paid for his supplies, left the store. And as he walked to his horse, he noticed something. People were watching. Mrs. Carson from the boarding house, the blacksmith, Deputy Larkin leaning against a post chewing tobacco. They were all watching, all judging, all deciding which side they'd take when this thing came to a head. Most of them wouldn't choose his side. Caleb knew that. Wade Hart had money, had influence, had the appearance of respectability. Caleb had a failing ranch and a stubborn conscience. But some of them, like Ben Holloway, would understand, would remember their own failures, their own regrets, and maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. Caleb rode home thinking about numbers, about how many people it took to stand against one powerful man, about whether truth mattered more than influence. He didn't have good answers, but he rode home anyway, back to a young woman who was learning to trust again. One small step at a time. Day 7 started different. Caleb woke to find Eliza already up, already dressed, standing in the kitchen like she'd been waiting for him. I want to learn to shoot, she said. No preamble, no explanation. Caleb sat up, rubbed his face, tried to wake his brain up enough to think. All right, he said. Why? Because when Wade comes, I want to be able to defend myself. Eliza. I know what you're going to say, she interrupted. That you'll protect me, that the law will protect me, that I should let other people handle it. Her voice was steady, determined. But I've been letting other people handle my life for 3 years. I'm done. Caleb looked at her, really looked, saw the set of her jaw, the way her hands weren't shaking for once, the decision already made. Shooting a gun isn't like in stories, he said. It's loud, kicks, hard to aim when you're scared. I'm already scared, Eliza said. At least with a gun, I'd have a chance. Caleb thought about arguing, thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea. A young woman who'd been traumatized learning to handle weapons, the risk of her hurting herself, the risk of Wade using it as evidence she was unstable. But then he remembered Sarah. remembered how helpless she'd been, how she'd died without even the option of fighting back. "All right," he said. "After breakfast. I'll teach you." They ate in silence. Eliza barely touched her food. Nervous energy. Caleb pulled out his old service revolver. Nothing fancy, just a reliable gun that fired when you needed it to. He showed her how to hold it, how to sight down the barrel, how to breathe. Then he unloaded it completely and handed it to her. "Feel the weight," he said. "Get used to having it in your hand." Eliza held it like it might explode, fingers uncertain, arms shaking. "It's heavy," she said. "Gets heavier the longer you hold it," Caleb said. "But you learn. Muscles adapt." They spent an hour just on holding it. No ammunition, no firing, just getting comfortable with the weight and shape. Eliza's hands shook the whole time, but she didn't give up, didn't set it down, just kept holding it until the shaking lessened. "That's enough for today," Caleb said finally. "But I haven't fired it." "Tomorrow," he said. "Can't learn everything in one day. Trust the process." She handed it back reluctantly, like she didn't want to let go of this small piece of control. That afternoon, while Eliza rested, a rider came. Caleb saw him from a distance, single horse, coming from town, not in a hurry, but purposeful. Caleb stood, watched, hand near his rifle but not touching it. The rider got closer. Caleb recognized him. Deke, one of Wade's men, younger guy, all swagger and no sense. Deke pulled up outside the fence line, didn't dismount, just sat there, looking at the house. Caleb walked out to meet him. Not friendly, not hostile, just present. "Help you?" Caleb asked. Deke smiled, the kind of smile that wasn't about humor. "Mr. Hart sent me. Says to give you a message." "I'm listening." Deke pulled an envelope from his saddlebag, leaned down, held it out. Caleb took it, didn't open it, just held it. "He wants you to know," Deke said, "that he's a reasonable man, willing to forgive this misunderstanding. All you got to do is return what belongs to him." "People don't belong to people," Caleb said. Deke's smile widened. "Law says different. Girl's a minor. He's her legal guardian. You're harboring her against his will. That's kidnapping McCrae. She came of her own accord. That's not what witnesses will say." Deke straightened in his saddle. "Read the letter, think about it. Mr. Hart's being generous now, won't be generous forever." He turned his horse, rode off slow, making it clear he wasn't afraid, wasn't in any hurry. Caleb waited until he was out of sight, then opened the letter. The handwriting was neat, educated, the kind that came from good schooling and practice. "Mr. McCrae, I understand you have my stepdaughter Eliza Hart at your property. While I appreciate your concern for her welfare, I must insist she return home immediately. Eliza is a troubled young woman. She has episodes. Confusion. She makes claims that have no basis in reality. This is not the first time she has run away and made wild accusations. I have consulted with Dr. Garrett and he confirms she was treated for injuries. However, these injuries were the result of a fall from a horse. Nothing more. As her legal guardian, I am within my rights to demand her return. I am also within my rights to pursue legal action against anyone who keeps her from me. However, I am a reasonable man. I am willing to overlook this incident if Eliza is returned by week's end. No questions asked, no charges filed. After that, I will have no choice but to involve the authorities. I trust you will do the right thing. Respectfully, Wade Hart." Caleb read it twice, each sentence more infuriating than the last. The lies were smooth, professional, the kind that would convince people who wanted to be convinced. Eliza had episodes. Eliza was confused. Eliza made wild accusations. Classic. Textbook. Make the victim sound crazy so no one believes her. And that bit about consulting with Dr. Garrett, twisting the truth, making it sound like the doctor had confirmed Wade's story when he'd done no such thing. Caleb folded the letter, tucked it in his pocket. He'd show it to the doctor next time he saw him. Let Garrett know Wade was using his name, using his professional reputation to build a wall of lies. Inside, Eliza was standing by the window, had been watching. "What did he want?" she asked, voice tight. Caleb handed her the letter. Let her read it herself. No point in hiding it. He watched her face as she read, watched the color drain, watched her hands start shaking. "He's going to make everyone think I'm crazy," she whispered. "That's his plan. That's what he always does." "It won't work," Caleb said. "It will." She set the letter down, hands trembling. "It always works. He's respected. I'm just—" She couldn't finish. Caleb moved closer. Not too close, but close enough. "You're just a woman telling the truth, and that matters more than you think." "Does it?" Bitter, angry. "Did it matter for your wife?" The words hit hard, because she was right. It hadn't mattered for Sarah. Truth hadn't saved her. "No," Caleb admitted. "It didn't. And I will regret that until I die. But maybe it can matter for you. Maybe we can make it matter." Eliza looked at him, eyes red, tears threatening. "How?" "By not giving up," he said. "By standing here and making him come to us. By getting people to see the truth even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable." "And if no one believes me, then at least we tried," Caleb said. "And that's more than most people do." It wasn't much comfort. They both knew it. But it was all he had. That night Caleb wrote another letter, this one to Ben Holloway. "Ben Wade Hart is making his move. Claims Eliza is confused. Claims her injuries were from a fall. Will likely be coming with law behind him soon. I need witnesses. People who've seen what he is, what he does. If you know anyone at all who might stand up and tell truth, now's the time. Can't do this alone. Caleb." He'd ride it to town tomorrow, get it to Ben. Hope the man had more courage than most. Meanwhile, he had a young woman to teach how to shoot, how to stand, how to fight back even when the world was designed to make her give up. It wasn't enough, might never be enough, but it was something, and something was better than nothing. Day 8 brought clouds, real clouds, not the wispy things that usually passed for weather in Arizona summer. These were dark, heavy, promising real rain. Caleb stood on the porch watching them build, Eliza beside him. "Storm coming," he said. "Good," she replied. "Maybe it'll wash some of this heat away." They'd spent the morning on shooting lessons, real ones this time, with ammunition. Eliza had flinched at the first shot. The noise, the kick, the way the gun seemed alive in her hands. But she'd steadied, tried again and again. And by the 10th shot she was hitting the targets Caleb had set up. Old cans on fence posts. Nothing fancy. Her hands still shook. Her aim still wavered. But she was learning. More importantly, she was choosing to learn. Choosing to take control of something. Anything. Now they watched the storm approach. Felt the wind pick up. Smelled rain before it arrived. "When I was little," Eliza said, "my father used to take me outside during storms. My real father, before he died. He'd stand on the porch and tell me to listen." "Listen for what?" "Thunder. He said you could hear God's voice in thunder, moving things around, shaking up the world." She smiled, small, sad. "I believed him." "Maybe he was right," Caleb said. The first drops fell, big, heavy, kicking up dust when they hit, then more and more, until it wasn't drops anymore, just water, sheets of it. Eliza laughed, actually laughed, held out her hands, let the rain soak her. Caleb watched her, saw something he hadn't seen before. Joy, pure and simple, the kind that comes from remembering what happiness used to feel like. The storm lasted maybe 20 minutes, then moved on, left everything wet and cool and smelling like earth. Eliza was soaked, didn't seem to care, just stood there, dripping, smiling. "Thank you," she said, "for what I didn't make it rain, for letting me be here, for this." She gestured at the porch, the ranch, the space to just exist. For not making me go back. You don't have to thank me for that, Caleb said. Ever. They went inside. Eliza changed into dry clothes. Caleb made coffee. Normal things, domestic things, the kind of ordinary moments that felt extraordinary when you'd been denied them. Around mid-afternoon, Caleb heard horses, multiple horses. His stomach tightened. He moved to the window, looked out. 3 riders, coming from the direction of town, not in a hurry, but not casual either. Eliza saw his expression. "What is it?" "Company," he said. Tried to keep his voice calm. "More than one." She went pale. "Wade?" "Don't know yet. Stay inside. Lock the bedroom door if you want." She didn't move, just stood there, frozen. "Eliza," he said, firm. "Inside. Now." She moved then, not to the bedroom, to the cabinet where he kept the rifle, pulled it out. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Standing with you," she said, voice shaking but determined. "I'm done hiding." "This isn't the time to be brave," Caleb said. "This is the time to be smart." "Smart would have been never trusting anyone," Eliza said. "Would have been staying in that grass and dying. I'm past smart. I'm at stubborn now." Caleb wanted to argue, wanted to send her away, protect her from whatever was about to happen. But he saw her face, saw the decision already made, saw a woman who'd been denied her own choices for too long. "Fine," he said. "But you stay behind me, and you don't shoot unless I say. Understand?" "Yes." The riders got closer. Caleb could see them clearly now. Not Wade, Deputy Larkin, and 2 men Caleb didn't recognize. Official-looking types, probably from Flagstaff. Larkin. That made sense. Wade would use law to get what he wanted, make it all legal, all proper. Caleb stepped onto the porch, Eliza behind him, rifle held loose, not threatening, but present. Larkin pulled up his horse, looked at Caleb, then at Eliza, smile playing at his lips. "McCrae," Larkin said, casual, friendly, the way a snake is friendly right before it strikes. "Got some people here want to talk to you." One of the other men dismounted, older, gray beard, badge that looked more official than Larkin's. "Mr. McCrae," the man said, voice formal. "I'm Sheriff Davis from Flagstaff. I've received a complaint from Mr. Wade Hart regarding his stepdaughter." "Complaint about what?" Caleb asked. "That you're holding her against her will, that she's a minor in need of returning to her legal guardian." "She's 19, Caleb said, "not a minor." "Arizona law says otherwise," Davis replied. "Majority is 21. Until then, her guardian has rights." Eliza stepped forward. Caleb felt her move before he saw her. "I'm not going back," she said, clear, loud. "I'm here by choice." Davis looked at her. Professional assessment. Cop eyes, reading her. "Miss Hart," he said, "your stepfather is concerned. Says you've had episodes. Says you need care." "I need care because of him," Eliza said. "He's the one who hurt me." "That's a serious accusation," Davis said. "It's the truth." Larkin laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, this is rich. Girl runs away, makes up stories, and you're supposed to believe her over a respected man like Wade Hart." "I've seen her injuries," Caleb said. "The doctor's seen them. They're not made up." "Injuries from a fall," Larkin said. "Wade told us. She fell from a horse, got confused, started inventing things." "That's a lie," Eliza said, voice rising, shaking. "He beats me. He's been beating me for 3 years, ever since my mother died, and he'll kill me if I go back." Davis held up a hand. "Miss, I understand you're upset, but accusations like that need proof, need evidence." "The bruises are evidence," Eliza said. "The bruises are from a fall," Larkin repeated. "Doctor confirmed it." "The doctor confirmed no such thing," Caleb said. "Doctor's report says injuries consistent with a fall," Davis said, pulling a paper from his pocket. "Signed by Dr. Samuel Garrett." Caleb felt his blood run cold. Let me see that. Davis handed it over. Caleb read it, felt sick. It was doctor's letterhead, professional language, clinical descriptions of injuries, and at the bottom, injuries consistent with fall from height. Patient confused about circumstances. Recommend return to family care. And a signature, Dr. Samuel Garrett. But Caleb knew with certainty. The doctor hadn't written this. Someone had forged it, or coerced it, or fabricated it completely. This is fake, Caleb said. That's a serious accusation, Davis said. Go ask Dr. Garrett yourself, Caleb said. He'll tell you he didn't write this. Larkin smiled. We did ask him. This morning. He confirmed everything. Liar. Larkin was lying. Had to be. But how could Caleb prove it, his word against theirs? And they had official paper, official authority. I need you to come with us, Miss Hart, Davis said. Not unkind, just firm. Your guardian has filed a complaint. Law says you need to return. No, Eliza said, backing up. No, I won't. You can't make me. Yes, ma'am, I can, Davis said. It's the law. He moved forward, slow, professional, doing his job. Caleb stepped in front of Eliza. She's not going. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, McCrae, Davis said. She goes back there, she dies, Caleb said. You'll be delivering her to her killer. That's dramatic, Larkin said. And illegal. You're interfering with law enforcement now. This was it. The moment. The choice. Caleb could stand down, let them take her, keep himself out of jail, or he could stand firm and likely end up arrested, leaving Eliza alone anyway. There was no good choice, just the choice between two different kinds of failure. He was still trying to decide when thunder rolled. Real thunder, deep and long. Everyone looked up, more storm clouds building, darker than before. And in that moment of distraction, Eliza made her choice. She raised the rifle, not pointing it at anyone, just holding it, visible, present. I'm not going, she said. You'll have to shoot me, because I'm not going back to him. Davis's hand went to his gun, professional reflex. Miss, put the weapon down, he said. No. Eliza, Caleb said, low, urgent. This isn't the way. Then what is? She asked, voice breaking. They have fake papers, fake testimonies, fake law. What do I have? Nothing except this. You have the truth, Caleb said. Truth doesn't matter, Eliza said. You know it doesn't. It didn't matter for your wife. It won't matter for me. She was right, and Caleb hated that she was right. Eliza, Davis said, calm, professional. I don't want to hurt you, but I will if I have to. Put the gun down. Come peacefully. We can sort this out in town. Sort it out how? Eliza asked. By giving me back to the man who beats me, by making me lie and say it was all in my head, by watching me die slow in that house. The law is bought, Eliza said. Bought by money, by influence, by men who shake hands and make deals. The law doesn't protect people like me. Thunder again. Closer this time. Rain starting to fall. Light at first, then harder. And in that rain, with three men staring at her, with Caleb beside her, with everything falling apart, Eliza did something remarkable. She lowered the rifle, set it down, stepped forward. Fine, she said. Take me, arrest me, drag me back. But when he kills me, when they find my body broken and bruised in that house, you remember this moment. You remember that you knew, that I told you, that I begged you for help, and you chose law over life. Her voice carried, clear and strong despite the rain. Davis looked uncomfortable. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. Miss, I'll go, Eliza said, because you'll make me, because I don't have power or money or influence, because I'm just a girl and he's Wade Hart and that's how it works. She held out her wrists, like she expected handcuffs. But I want you to know, she continued, I want you to remember, when it happens, when he finishes what he started, I want you to know you could have stopped it. The rain was coming down hard now, soaking everyone, making the ground mud. Davis didn't move, just stood there, badge getting wet, looking at this young woman who'd just stripped away every excuse he had. Larkin broke the silence. "She's dramatic. Wade said she'd be dramatic. It's all an act." But Davis wasn't listening to Larkin anymore. He was looking at Eliza, really looking, at her bruises, at her shaking hands, at her eyes that held terror and determination in equal measure. "When did your mother die, Miss Hart?" Davis asked. The question surprised everyone, including Eliza. 3 years ago, she said. "Why? And when did the abuse start?" Silence. "Right after," Eliza whispered. "Right after she couldn't protect me anymore." Davis nodded, like something had clicked into place. "I need to talk to Dr. Garrett," he said, "in person, before I make any decisions." "We already," Larkin started. "In person," Davis repeated, firm, "and I need to see the original report. Not a copy." Larkin's face tightened. "Sheriff, we have our orders." "I'm the sheriff," Davis said. "These are my orders. We go back to town. We talk to the doctor. We verify everything. Then we proceed." "Wade won't like—" "I don't care what Wade likes," Davis said. "I care about doing this right." He looked at Caleb. "You keep her here. Keep her safe. I'll be back tomorrow, with the doctor. We'll get to the bottom of this." "And if Wade comes?" Caleb asked. "Tell him to wait for law," Davis said. "Tell him if he takes her without me present, I'll arrest him myself." It wasn't much. Just a delay. A chance to breathe. But it was something. The 3 men mounted up, rode off through the rain, Larkin looking furious, Davis looking thoughtful. Caleb and Eliza stood on the porch, soaking wet, watching them go. "That was brave," Caleb said, "and stupid." "I know," Eliza said. "Don't do it again." "I will if I have to." They went inside, changed into dry clothes, made coffee that neither of them drank. Outside thunder rolled, moving the world around, shaking things up. And somewhere in Tuba City, Dr. Samuel Garrett was about to have a very uncomfortable conversation with a sheriff who'd started asking questions. Tomorrow would bring answers, or more lies, or violence. But tonight, Eliza was still here, still safe. One more day. That would have to be enough. I was in my office cleaning instruments when Sheriff Davis walked through my door. Deputy Larkin behind him, both of them wet from the storm. My stomach dropped before Davis even opened his mouth. I knew, just knew. "Dr. Garrett," Davis said. Formal, polite. "Need a word?" I set down the scalpel I'd been sharpening, wiped my hands on a cloth, tried to keep my face neutral. "Sheriff, deputy, what can I do for you?" Davis pulled out a paper, set it on my desk. "This yours?" I looked at it, felt my blood go cold. It was my letterhead. Professional language describing Eliza's injuries, and at the bottom, my signature, stating that her injuries were consistent with a fall, that she was confused, that she should return to family care. I'd never written it, never signed it, never even seen it before. "No," I said, clear, certain. "That's not mine." Larkin smiled. "That's your signature." "That's a forgery of my signature," I corrected. "I never wrote this report." "You sure about that?" Larkin asked. "Maybe you just forgot. Busy practice, lot of patience." I looked at him, really looked, saw the smugness, the certainty that he'd trapped me. "I'm 68 years old," I said. "My memory's not what it was, but I remember every patient I treat, especially ones with injuries like Miss Hart's, and I never wrote this." Davis leaned forward. "Tell me what you did right, doctor." I could have lied, could have softened it, could have found some middle ground that kept me safe. But I was tired of lying, tired of middle ground, tired of being safe while women died. "I examined Eliza Hart on Tuesday, July 10th, I said. "She presented with severe contusions to her ribs, pelvis, and upper thighs, defensive wounds on her forearms, Evidence of recent physical trauma. Injuries consistent with assault, not accident. Larkin's smile faded. That's a serious accusation. It's a medical assessment, I said, based on 30 years of practice. Did she tell you who assaulted her? Davis asked. She told me she couldn't go home, that her stepfather would find her, that he always found her. I met his eyes. I drew my own conclusions. Based on what? Larkin demanded. A confused girl's story. Based on pattern recognition, I said. Based on the specific nature and location of her injuries. Based on 3 decades of seeing what violence looks like. Davis was quiet for a moment, thinking, processing. This report, he said, tapping the forged document. You're saying you didn't write it. I'm saying I didn't write it, I confirmed. And I'd be happy to testify to that under oath. Larkin stood up fast, chair scraping. You're making a mistake, Doc. Wade Hart's a respected man. You go up against him, you'll lose everything. I've already lost everything that mattered, I said, quiet, true. 5 years ago, when I kept silent about his first wife. The room went very still. Davis leaned forward. Explain. So I did. All of it. The thing I'd been carrying for 5 years. The weight that had been crushing my conscience. Margaret Hart, I said. Wade's first wife. I treated her 3 times in 1882. Broken ribs, bruised kidneys, facial trauma. Each time she said it was an accident, a fall, clumsiness. I paused, swallowed, continued. Each time I believed her, or told myself I believed her, because Wade Hart was respected, because questioning him felt dangerous, because I was a coward. What happened to her? Davis asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. She died, I said. November 1882, fell down the stairs. Internal bleeding. I signed the death certificate. I looked at my hands. Old hands. Healer's hands that had failed to heal. Accidental death. That's what I wrote. That's what I told everyone. But it wasn't, Davis said. No, I agreed. It wasn't. And I knew it. And I stayed silent. Because staying silent was easier than facing what I knew. Larkin made a disgusted sound. This is ancient history. Margaret's death was investigated, found to be accidental. Investigated by who? I asked. By you, deputy, by men Wade had influence over. Larkin's face flushed. You're out of line. Am I? I stood up, old knees protesting, but I stood. Or am I finally drawing the line I should have drawn 5 years ago? Davis held up a hand. Everyone calm down. He looked at me. Doctor, what you're suggesting, that Wade Hart killed his first wife and is now abusing his stepdaughter, that's serious. I know it's serious, I said. That's why I'm finally saying it. Why now? Davis asked. Why not 5 years ago? Why not when Margaret was alive and could have been saved? The question hit like a fist. The question I'd been asking myself every day for 5 years. Because I was afraid, I said. Simple, honest. Afraid of losing my practice, my reputation, my comfortable life. I chose comfort over conscience, and Margaret died because of it. I sat back down, suddenly tired, the weight of confession heavy. I can't save Margaret, I continued, but I can save Eliza. I can stand up and tell the truth this time, even if it costs me everything, especially if it costs me everything. Davis was quiet, studying me, cop eyes, reading for lies. This forged report, he said finally. You have any idea who made it? Wade has resources, I said. Money, connections, could have paid someone, could have had access to my letterhead through various means. But you can't prove it was him. No, I admitted. I can't prove it, just like I couldn't prove what he did to Margaret, just like proof always seems to evaporate around powerful men. Larkin snorted. This is ridiculous. You're basing everything on suspicion, on feeling. That's not evidence. Deputy's right, Davis said, slow, reluctant. In court, what you have wouldn't hold up. It's your word against Wade's, your interpretation of injuries against his explanation. My heart sank. I'd confessed, told the truth, and it still wasn't enough. However, Davis continued, the forged report changes things. That's falsification of medical records. That's illegal regardless of who did it. He stood, folded the document, tucked it in his coat. I'm going to investigate this properly, he said. Talk to more people, get more statements. And tomorrow I'm going back to McCrae's ranch. With you, Doctor. You're going to examine Miss Hart again, fully document everything, create a real medical record. And if Wade objects, I asked. Then Wade can object to a federal marshal, Davis said. Because if what you're saying is true, if Wade Hart has been falsifying documents and abusing his stepdaughter, this goes beyond local jurisdiction. He moved toward the door, stopped, looked back at me. Doctor, I respect what you're doing. I do. But be prepared. Wade Hart won't take this lying down. He'll come after you. Your practice, your reputation, everything. I know, I said. And you're still willing. I thought about Margaret, about the journal entry I'd written, about God forgiving me. Yes, I said. I'm still willing. After they left, I sat in my office for a long time, looking at my instruments, at my books, at 30 years of careful, safe practice, all of it about to burn. But for the first time in 5 years, I felt like I could breathe. That night at the ranch, Caleb couldn't sleep. He lay on his bedroll, staring at the ceiling, listening to the small sounds of the house settling. Through the open bedroom door, he could hear Eliza breathing, steady, asleep, safe for another night. He thought about Davis, about the sheriff's promise to return tomorrow with the doctor, about whether that promise would hold or whether Wade would find a way to break it. And he thought about Sarah. He hadn't let himself think about her properly in years. It hurt too much. The guilt was too sharp. But tonight, with everything uncertain, with the past pressing against the present, he let himself remember. Winter, 1876. Colorado Territory. Caleb was younger then, 32. Still believed the world made sense. Still believed doing your work and minding your business kept you safe. He'd married Sarah 3 years earlier. Quiet woman, kind, the sort who made a house feel like home just by being in it. They lived on a small ranch outside Durango, neighbors on all sides. Community of ranchers and farmers trying to scratch a living from hard ground. One of those neighbors was a man named Dutch Keller. Big man, loud, the kind who told jokes at gatherings and bought rounds at the saloon. Everyone liked Dutch, everyone except Sarah. Caleb noticed it slow, the way she'd tense when Dutch's name came up, the way she'd make excuses not to attend gatherings if Dutch would be there. He asked about it once, casual, not pushing. "What's wrong with Dutch?" Sarah had looked away. "Nothing. I just don't care for him." That should have been enough, should have been a sign. But Caleb let it go, told himself Sarah was just particular about people. Some folks you liked, some you didn't. Then he noticed the bruises, small ones at first, on her wrist, her upper arm, places that could be hidden. "What happened?" he'd asked, touching her arm gentle. "I'm clumsy," she'd said, quick, practiced. Bumped into the door. He'd believed her, or wanted to believe her. Same thing in the end. The bruises got worse, more frequent, harder to explain. One morning Sarah winced getting out of bed, held her ribs like breathing hurt. "Sarah," Caleb said, concerned now, really concerned. "What's going on?" "I fell," she said. "Yesterday, when you were in town. Fell carrying firewood." "You should see a doctor." "I'm fine, just bruised." But she wasn't fine. She was careful, guarded, like someone expecting to be hit. Caleb started paying attention, real attention. He noticed Dutch always seemed to be around when Caleb was gone, noticed Sarah's excuses to stay home, noticed the way she jumped at sudden sounds. And he noticed something else, how Dutch and Sarah never spoke, never even looked at each other, like they had an agreement to pretend the other didn't exist. That was wrong, unnatural. People who genuinely had no relationship didn't work that hard at avoiding each other. Caleb thought about confronting Dutch, thought about asking Sarah directly, thought about a lot of things. But he didn't do any of them. Because confronting Dutch meant causing trouble, meant making accusations he couldn't prove, meant disrupting the community over what might be nothing. And asking Sarah directly meant forcing her to either lie or confess something that might destroy them both. So Caleb did what men have done forever when faced with hard truths they don't want to face. He did nothing. He told himself Sarah would ask if she needed help, told himself he was respecting her privacy, told himself 100 comfortable lies while his wife suffered. The lies lasted until November. Caleb came home from a cattle sale, 3 days gone, came back to find Sarah in bed, fever, shaking, barely conscious. "Sarah." He knelt beside her, touched her forehead, burning up. "What happened?" She could barely speak, words coming in gasps. "Fell. Down the stairs. Couple days ago. Tried to wait. For you." Caleb got the doctor. By the time he arrived, Sarah was worse, barely breathing. Internal bleeding, the doctor said. Probably from the fall. Maybe broken ribs punctured something. Hard to say. "How long ago did this happen?" the doctor asked. "She said a couple days," Caleb said. The doctor frowned. "This kind of injury. She should have been treated immediately. Why did she wait?" Caleb didn't have an answer. Sarah died that evening, holding Caleb's hand, looking at him with eyes that held pain and love and regret. "Caleb," she whispered, voice barely there, "promise me anything. If you ever see this happening to another woman, don't stay silent. Promise me." "I promise." She'd closed her eyes then, gone quiet, and 10 minutes later she was gone. The doctor wrote up the death certificate. Accidental death. Fall downstairs. Internal bleeding. The community mourned. Dutch Keller was especially torn up. Brought Caleb a casserole. Offered to help with chores. "Sarah was a good woman," Dutch said, tears in his eyes. "Such a tragedy. So young." Caleb had wanted to kill him, right there, in front of everyone. But he didn't, because he had no proof. No evidence, just suspicion and a dead wife's injuries that could have been from a fall. After the funeral, after everyone left, Caleb went through Sarah's things, found a journal, hidden at the bottom of her drawer. Most of it was normal. Daily life, thoughts about the ranch, plans for a garden. But toward the end, the last few months, the entries changed. Brief, scared. "He came by again today while C was gone. I told him to leave. He didn't. Bruises worse. Can't let C see. Maybe if I'm just more careful, more quiet, he'll leave me alone. I'm afraid." Never a name. Sarah had been too scared to even write his name. But Caleb knew. Had known all along. Just hadn't wanted to see it. He'd packed up everything that winter. Left Colorado. Never went back. Never confronted Dutch. Never told anyone what he suspected. Just carried the guilt and the promise. For 11 years he'd carried them both. Caleb came back to the present, to the small ranch house in Arizona, to a different woman he was trying to protect. This time he'd kept the promise, had stood up, had acted. But would it be enough? Sarah had asked him not to stay silent. She hadn't asked him to win, hadn't asked him to save everyone, just not to stay silent. He'd kept that part of the promise. The rest, the winning and saving that was still uncertain. Thunder rolled in the distance. Another storm building. The desert getting more rain in 1 week than it usually got in a month. God moving things around, Eliza's father had said. Shaking up the world. Caleb hoped he was right, because this world needed shaking. Morning came clear and cool. The storms had passed, left everything washed and clean. Eliza was up before Caleb. Had coffee started when he woke. Small thing, but significant. "Morning," she said. "Almost normal. almost like this was a regular household where people said good morning without weighing each word. "Morning," Caleb replied. Stood, stretched, joints protesting. "Sleep all right?" "Better than usual." She handed him coffee. "Only woke up 3 times instead of 6. They'd developed this pattern. Dark humor about small victories, celebrating the fact that terror was slowly becoming manageable terror. "Doctor's coming today," Caleb said. "With the sheriff. They want to examine you again. Document everything proper." Eliza's hands tightened on her cup. "And then what?" "Don't know. Davis seems honest. Seems like he wants to do this right, but seems isn't the same as is." "Will you be there when they examine me? If you want me to be." She thought about it, nodded. "Outside the door, not in the room, but close, so I can hear you." "All right." They drank coffee in comfortable silence, or what passed for comfortable these days. "Can we practice more today?" Eliza asked. "With the gun?" "You getting good with it," Caleb said. "Hit 7 out of 10 targets yesterday." "I want to hit 10 out of 10. Why you planning on shooting someone?" "I'm planning on being ready," she said. "In case I need to." Caleb understood that. The need to feel prepared, to have options, to not be helpless. "After the doctor leaves," he said, "we'll practice until your arm's tired." They spent the morning waiting. Caleb did chores. Eliza cleaned the house. Normal activities that felt strange because nothing was normal anymore. Around mid-morning riders appeared. 3 of them, Sheriff Davis, Dr. Garrett, and a 4th man Caleb didn't recognize. Older, distinguished-looking, badge that looked federal. Caleb stepped onto the porch, Eliza beside him. They'd agreed she wouldn't hide anymore. Hiding gave Wade power. Davis dismounted first. "McCrae, Miss Hart." He gestured to the older man. "This is Federal Marshal Rudd, up from Flagstaff." Caleb's heart jumped. Rudd, the marshal he'd written to, the man who owed him a debt from Winter Wash 1882. Rudd stepped forward, studied Caleb's face. Recognition dawned. "Caleb McCrae," Rudd said, voice warm, genuine. "I'll be damned. Winter Wash. You pulled me out of that river." "You remembered," Caleb said. "Man doesn't forget the person who saved his life." Rudd extended his hand. Caleb shook it. Firm grip. Honest. "Got your letter. Would have come sooner, but I was up in Prescott. Soon as I got back and heard what was happening, I rode straight here." "Appreciate it." Dr. Garrett stepped forward, looked at Eliza. "Miss Hart, I need to examine you again. Properly document everything. Sheriff's orders." Eliza nodded, pale but determined. "All right." They went inside. Caleb waited on the porch with Davis and Rudd. "Doctor told me about Margaret Hart," Davis said, low, confidential. "About the pattern, about the forged report." "You believe him?" Caleb asked. "I believe his guilt is real," Davis said. "Whether Wade actually killed his first wife, that's harder to prove. But the forged medical report, that's a crime right there." "Wade will say he didn't forge it," Caleb said. "We'll say someone else must have done it. We'll produce alibis and witnesses." "Probably," Rudd agreed. "Men like Wade Hart don't get where they are without learning how to cover their tracks." "So what's the play?" Caleb asked. "Proper documentation," Rudd said. "Real medical evidence. Testimony from Miss Hart. Testimony from the doctor. Build a case that can't be dismissed. And if Wade comes for her before you can build the case, then he goes through me," Rudd said. "And I don't move easy." Inside, Caleb could hear voices, the doctor talking, Eliza responding, the clinical exchange of examination. He wanted to be in there, wanted to make sure she was all right, but he'd promised to stay outside, so he stayed. 15 minutes later, Dr. Garrett emerged, face grave. "Extensive bruising consistent with assault," he said. "Defensive wounds on forearms, older scars on her back, healed fracture on her left wrist improperly set." He looked at Davis. "This didn't happen from a fall. This is a pattern, years of abuse." Davis nodded. Can you document all that officially? I can and I will. The doctor looked at Caleb. I failed Margaret. I'm not failing Eliza. Eliza came out, looking tired, shaky, but standing. It's done, she asked. It's done, the doctor confirmed. I'll have a full report by tomorrow. Proper documentation. No room for doubt. Will it matter? Eliza asked, voice small. Will anyone care about proper documentation when Wade has money and influence? It matters in federal court, Rudd said. And if this goes where I think it's going, that's where it's headed. What do you mean? Caleb asked. Falsifying medical documents is a federal offense, Rudd explained. Interstate commerce, mail fraud, potential conspiracy. If I can prove Wade or someone working for him forged that report, I can bring federal charges. Get this out of local jurisdiction where Wade has influence. Big if, Davis said. True, Rudd agreed. But I've built cases on less. He turned to Eliza. Miss Hart, I need you to tell me everything, from the beginning. When the abuse started, what form it took, any witnesses, any evidence, everything. Eliza looked at Caleb. He nodded. Encouragement. She told them. All of it. Voice shaking but clear. The timeline, the escalation, the threats, the ways Wade made sure no one would believe her if she told. The three lawmen listened, taking notes, not interrupting, letting her speak. When she finished, she looked exhausted, wrung out. That's enough for now, Rudd said, gentle, professional. We'll need formal statements later, but this gives me enough to start. Start what? Eliza asked. Investigation, Rudd said. Proper one. Talk to people in town, see who knew what. Follow the money on that forged report. Wade will know you're investigating, Caleb said. We'll react. Let him, Rudd said. Sometimes the reaction tells you more than the investigation. They stayed another hour, going over details, making plans. Rudd set up a schedule. He'd stay in Tuba City, conduct interviews, build the case. Davis would keep Wade occupied, keep him thinking local law was handling it, keep him from realizing federal jurisdiction was getting involved. Dr. Garrett would finish his report, make it ironclad, present it as official medical evidence. And Caleb would keep Eliza safe, keep her away from Wade until they had enough to arrest him properly. It was a good plan, solid, professional. But Caleb had learned that good plans often fell apart when they met reality. As they were leaving, Rudd pulled Caleb aside. Winter wash, Rudd said. When you pulled me out, you broke your arm doing it. It healed. You never asked for anything in return, never called in the debt, until now. Rudd's eyes were serious. I owe you my life, Caleb, and I pay my debts. This girl, she's going to be safe. I give you my word. Your word's good enough, Caleb said. They shook hands again. Then Rudd mounted up, rode off with Davis and the doctor. Caleb and Eliza stood on the porch, watching them go. Do you trust them? Eliza asked. I trust Rudd, Caleb said. Knew him when he was young, honest then. Seems honest still. Davis I don't know well enough, but he seems to be trying. And the doctor? Doctor's carrying guilt, Caleb said, trying to make it right. That kind of motivation can be powerful, or it can make a man reckless. Time will tell which. Eliza nodded, quiet, processing. Come on, Caleb said. Let's go shoot some targets. You said you wanted 10 out of 10. They spent the afternoon practicing. Eliza was getting better, steadier. Her hands still shook sometimes, but less. The gun felt more natural now, less like a foreign object and more like a tool. She hit 8 out of 10, then 9. Then on the third try, all 10. She lowered the gun, looked at the cans, all of them knocked over. Then she smiled, real smile, full and bright. I did it, she said. You did, Caleb agreed. I hit every one. Yes, you did. She turned to him, still smiling. I can do this. I can protect myself. You always could, Caleb said. You just needed the tools. That night, over simple dinner, Eliza asked the question Caleb had been expecting. Tell me about Winter Wash, about Marshall Rudd. Caleb set down his fork, remembered. February 1882, northern Arizona. Caleb had been trailing cattle, lost herd, scattered in a storm, tracking them through snow and ice, found them near a river, frozen river, ice thick enough to walk on, barely, and found something else. A man, face down on the ice, halfway across. The ice was breaking, cracks spreading. Man was going to fall through any second. Caleb should have left him, should have focused on his cattle, should have minded his own business. But he didn't. He tied a rope around his waist, secured the other end to a tree, started across the ice. It cracked under him, spread like spider webs, but held. He reached the man, grabbed him, started pulling him back. That's when the ice broke completely. They both went through. Water so cold it stopped thinking, stopped everything except survival instinct. Caleb held onto the rope with one hand, held onto the man with the other, pulled them both toward shore, hand over hand, ice cutting his skin, water numbing his fingers. His left arm broke, bone snapping like a dry branch, caught on something under the ice, but he didn't let go, kept pulling, kept moving, got them to shore, dragged the man onto solid ground, collapsed beside him. The man coughed, spit up water, lived. Turned out he was a U.S. Marshal, Rudd, been chasing outlaws, lost his horse, tried to cross the river. You saved my life, Rudd said later, after they'd both warmed up, after Caleb's arm had been set. I owe you. Don't owe me anything, Caleb said. Any man would have done the same. No, Rudd said. They wouldn't. And I remember debts. He'd written down Caleb's name, where he lived, promised that if Caleb ever needed anything at all, to call on him. Caleb had tucked the information away, never thought he'd use it, until now. You broke your arm saving him, Eliza asked. Broke it, healed crooked, aches when it rains. Caleb flexed his left hand. Small price. Most men wouldn't have risked it. Most men aren't responsible for the consequences of their choices, Caleb said. I am. Eliza was quiet for a moment. Then, is that why you helped me? Consequence of choosing. Partly, Caleb admitted. But mostly because you needed help, and I was there. Simple as that. Nothing about this is simple, Eliza said. No, Caleb agreed. But the decision was. They cleaned up dinner together. New routine, small domesticity, almost normal. That night Caleb woke to screaming. He was on his feet before he was fully awake, hand reaching for the rifle. But it wasn't an attack. It was Eliza. Nightmare. He heard her thrashing, crying, voice muffled but desperate. No, please, no. Caleb moved to her door, knocked. Eliza, it's Caleb. You're safe. You're at the ranch. Wade's not here. The thrashing continued. She wasn't hearing him, trapped in whatever memory was replaying. Caleb made a decision. Opened the door. Just a crack. Eliza, he said, louder. Wake up. You're dreaming. You're safe. She jolted awake, sat up, eyes wild, looking around like she didn't recognize where she was. Then she saw Caleb, saw the door, saw reality, started crying, deep broken sobs. I'm sorry, she gasped. I'm sorry, I thought. Nothing to be sorry for, Caleb said. Stayed in the doorway, didn't enter. Nightmares are normal, expected even. I was back there, she said, voice hitching. In the house, and he was... She couldn't finish. You're not there, Caleb said. You're here, you're safe, and you're going to be safe. How do you know? She wiped her face. How can you promise that? Because I won't let anything else happen, Caleb said. Simple, true. Whatever it takes. Eliza looked at him. Really looked, reading his face in the dim light. You mean that? Yes. Why? Why do you care this much? Caleb thought about Sarah, about promises, about debts that could never be repaid. Because someone I loved asked me to, he said, and because you deserve it. Those are both true. Eliza nodded, wiped her eyes again. Will you? Can you stay, just for a little while, until I fall back asleep? I can sit outside the door, Caleb said. If that helps. It would. He settled on the floor, back against the wall, where she could hear him, know he was there, but not feel trapped. Caleb. Her voice came from the darkness. Yeah. Thank you. For everything. Get some sleep, Eliza. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. He sat there until her breathing evened out, until sleep took her back under. Then he sat there longer, just to be sure. Outside the desert night was quiet, stars bright, no storms building, just the normal sounds of a normal night. Except nothing was normal anymore. And tomorrow, when Wade realized federal law was getting involved, when he understood his influence wasn't going to protect him, this time he was going to make his move. Caleb knew it, could feel it coming like another storm. The question wasn't if, just when, and how bad it would be. He sat against that wall until dawn, keeping watch, keeping his promise. Whatever came next, Eliza wouldn't face it alone. That much he could guarantee. Marshal Rudd wasted no time. I saw him the next day moving through Tuba City like a man with purpose. He started with me. Came to my office first thing in the morning. Doctor, he said, need you to walk me through every time you treated Margaret Hart. Every detail. Everything you remember. So I did. Went to my files, pulled out Margaret's medical records. Thin folder, only 3 visits documented. Should have been more. Would have been more if I'd pushed. First visit, I said, March 1882. Presented with broken ribs, left side. Said she fell while carrying laundry. You believe that? Rudd asked. I wanted to, I said, honest. But the break pattern was wrong. Fall from standing height doesn't usually break ribs cleanly, more likely a direct blow. Did you say that to her? I asked if anything else happened. She said no. I let it go. Rudd nodded, wrote notes. Second visit. July 1882. Bruised kidneys. Blood in urine. She said she stumbled going downstairs, caught herself on the railing. Kidneys don't usually bruise from stumbling, Rudd said. No. I agreed. They don't. Takes a hard impact. Multiple impacts sometimes. Third visit. October 1882. Facial trauma. Broken nose. Split lip. She said the horse kicked her. But the injury pattern was wrong again. Horse kick comes from below usually. Strikes upward. Her injuries were lateral, like someone hit her across the face. Rudd set down his pencil, looked at me. You knew. All 3 times. You knew and didn't report it. Yes. Why? I'd been asking myself that question for 5 years. Had 100 answers. None of them good enough. Because Wade Hart was respected, I said. Because Margaret insisted they were accidents. Because reporting suspicions without proof felt like overstepping. Because I was afraid of being wrong. Of ruining a man's reputation over nothing. Or being right, Rudd said, and having to face what that meant. Yes, I admitted. That too. He picked up his pencil again. She died a month after the 3rd visit. November 14th, 1882. I was called to the Hart House. Found her at the bottom of the stairs. Still alive, but barely. Internal bleeding. Too much to stop. What did she say? Before she died. I closed my eyes. Remembered. Margaret's face. Pale. Terrified. Wade standing nearby. Concerned husband. She said, I'm sorry. I told Rudd. That's all. I'm sorry. Sorry for what? I don't know. I thought she meant sorry for being careless, for falling. But now, I opened my eyes. Now I think she was apologizing for not being strong enough to survive. Rudd was quiet, writing, thinking. Wade was there when she died. Yes, very upset, crying, asked me to do everything I could. Did you examine the stairs? No, I was focused on Margaret. By the time I thought to look, scene had been cleaned. Wade said the blood was upsetting him. Had someone wash it away. Convenient, Rudd said, dry. Death certificate. Accidental death due to fall. Internal injuries. I signed it. I met his eyes. I should have questioned more, should have investigated, should have done my job properly. Yes, Rudd agreed, blunt. You should have, but you're doing it now. That counts for something. He stood, gathered his notes. I'm going to talk to other people, see who else noticed things, see if there's a pattern. There is, I said. I'm sure of it. Margaret wasn't the first woman Wade hurt, and Eliza won't be the last if we don't stop him. Rudd nodded. That's the plan, Doctor. Stop him, properly, legally, so he can't hurt anyone again. After he left, I sat in my office, looking at Margaret's file, at my own handwriting documenting her injuries while believing her lies. The weight of it was crushing, but Rudd was right. I was doing it properly now. That had to count for something. Over the next 2 days, Rudd interviewed half the town. I heard about it from patients, from people stopping by, from the general gossip that flows through small communities. He talked to Ben Holloway at the general store. Ben told him about his daughter, about suspicions he'd never voiced, about regrets that ate at him. He talked to Mrs. Carson, who ran the boarding house. She remembered Margaret, remembered how quiet she got those last months, how she stopped coming to church socials, how she made excuses. He talked to the blacksmith, the stable owner, the woman who did laundry, people on the edges, people who noticed things but never said anything because saying meant trouble. And a pattern emerged, the pattern I'd seen but ignored, the pattern of a man who hurt women in private and maintained a perfect image in public. But patterns weren't proof, and Wade Hart was smart enough to know it. The pushback started on the 3rd day. Deputy Larkin spread word that a federal marshal was harassing good citizens, making wild accusations, trying to ruin reputations based on gossip and lies. Wade himself made a public appearance, came to Sunday service, sat in his usual pew, looked appropriately concerned and slightly wounded. After the service, he addressed the congregation, impromptu, emotional. I know there are rumors, he said, voice carrying, sincere, about my stepdaughter, about Marshal Rudd's investigation, and I want to address them directly. The church went quiet, everyone listening. Eliza is troubled, Wade continued, has been since her mother died. She imagines things, creates stories. I've tried to help her, tried to get her proper care, but she ran away, and now she's making accusations that break my heart. He paused, wiped his eyes. Perfect performance. I love that girl like my own daughter, he said. I only want what's best for her, and what's best is proper medical care, professional help for her delusions. People nodded, sympathetic. Of course Wade was the victim here. Of course Eliza was unstable. As for Margaret, Wade continued, voice breaking, my first wife, the suggestion that I had anything to do with her death it's unconscionable. She fell. It was a tragic accident. To imply otherwise is to dishonor her memory. More nods, more sympathy. Wade had turned the narrative completely, made himself the concerned father, made Eliza the troubled daughter, made the investigation an attack on a grieving widower. It was masterful, and it was working. After the service, people came to Wade, offered support, promised to vouch for his character. Only a few stayed away. Ben Holloway, Mrs. Carson, a couple others who'd seen too much to be completely convinced. But they were the minority, and minorities didn't matter much when the majority had already chosen sides. I watched it happen from the back of the church, watched Wade rebuild his armor of respectability, watched the town close ranks around him. And I realized with cold certainty this wasn't going to be settled quietly. This was going to get loud, public, ugly. The question was whether truth would survive the ugliness. On day 10, a letter arrived at Caleb's ranch, hand-delivered by a rider Caleb didn't recognize. Young man, nervous, left it and rode off fast. Caleb opened it, read it, felt his blood run cold. McCrae, you have interfered long enough. My patience has limits. I am Eliza's legal guardian. I have rights that you are violating. I have given you opportunity to return her voluntarily. You have refused. Therefore, I am filing formal charges: kidnapping, unlawful detention, interference with parental rights. Marshal Rudd's investigation is a fishing expedition. It will find nothing because there is nothing to find. My conscience is clear, but your conscience should not be. You are harboring a mentally unstable young woman. You are enabling her delusions. You are preventing her from receiving the care she needs. I am offering one final opportunity. Return Eliza to my care by Friday. Come with her to Cameron. Bring Marshal Rudd and Sheriff Davis if you want witnesses. We will resolve this publicly, legally, properly. If you refuse, I will have no choice but to escalate. Deputy Larkin has arrest warrants prepared. You will be taken into custody. Eliza will be returned to me regardless. This ends Friday, one way or another. Wade Hart. Caleb read it twice, then showed it to Eliza. Her hands shook holding it, but her voice was steady. He's forcing a confrontation. Yes. Public, where he has support, where he looks like the reasonable one. That's his play, Caleb agreed. Make us look like the aggressors. Make himself look like the victim. Will Marshal Rudd arrest you? Eliza asked. If Wade files charges. Rudd won't, but local law might have to. Jurisdictional issues. So what do we do? Caleb thought about it, thought about options, thought about chess moves and counter moves. We go to Cameron, he said finally. We do exactly what Wade wants. Public confrontation, witnesses, everything official. That's what he's expecting. Yes, but we bring our own witnesses, our own evidence. Dr. Garrett's full report, Rudd's investigation findings, everything we've built. And if it's not enough, if people believe Wade instead, then we lose, Caleb said. Simple, true. But we lose having tried, having stood up, having spoken truth even if nobody wanted to hear it. Eliza was quiet, thinking, processing. When I say no this time, she said, when I tell everyone publicly that I won't go back, will they listen? I don't know, Caleb admitted. Hope so, but I don't know. My mother used to say hope is not a plan. She was right, but sometimes hope is all you got. Eliza nodded, set down the letter, looked at Caleb with eyes that had seen too much but still held fight. Then we go to Cameron, she said. We stand up, we speak truth, and we hope it's enough. Caleb sent word to Marshal Rudd, to Dr. Garrett, to Ben Holloway, and anyone else who might stand with them. Friday. Cameron. Public confrontation. Winner take all. The town of Cameron sat on the crossroads. Bigger than Tuba City, more official, had a courthouse, had witnesses, had everything Wade needed to make his case. But it also had something Wade didn't expect. Federal jurisdiction, real law, the kind that didn't bend as easy to local influence. Thursday night, Caleb and Eliza prepared. She packed a small bag, not much, just enough, like she was preparing for the possibility that Friday ended with her back in Wade's house. Caleb cleaned his rifle, checked his ammunition, not because he planned to use it, but because plans had a way of falling apart. Are you scared? Eliza asked. Yes, Caleb said, honest. Me too. Fear's normal, just means you understand what's at stake. What is at stake? Really? Caleb set down his rifle, looked at her. Your life, your freedom, your right to say no to a man who wants to control you, everything that matters. And you're risking everything for that. For me. Why? Already told you why. Tell me again. I need to hear it. Caleb thought about Sarah, about promises, about debts and redemption, and the simple fact that some things mattered more than safety. Because someone I loved died asking me to do exactly this, he said. And because even if she hadn't asked, it would still be the right thing. Those are both true, can both be true at the same time. Eliza nodded, eyes bright. Your wife, Sarah. She'd be proud of you. Don't know about that. I failed her pretty completely. You're not failing me, Eliza said. Whatever happens tomorrow, you didn't fail me. They sat together in the quiet evening. Tomorrow would bring noise, confrontation, the moment everything either broke open or broke apart. But tonight they had peace, small, temporary, but real. Outside the desert stretched away into darkness, stars coming out, night sounds beginning, and somewhere in the distance in a house in Tuba City, Wade Hart was preparing too, building his case, gathering his witnesses, sharpening his weapons. Tomorrow in Cameron it would all come to a head, truth against lies, power against justice. One young woman's voice against a system designed to silence her. The outcome was uncertain, but the fight was guaranteed. And that was enough. For tonight, that was enough. Friday morning came cold, desert cold, the kind that surprises people who think Arizona is always hot. Caleb was up before dawn, had been up most of the night, truth be told, checking weapons, reviewing options, thinking through everything that could go wrong. The list was long. Eliza emerged from the bedroom dressed simply, practical, hair pulled back. She wore one of the dresses Dr. Garrett had brought her, clean, modest, respectable, armor of a different kind. Ready? Caleb asked. No, she said, but we're going anyway. They ate breakfast in silence, neither hungry, both forcing food down because the day ahead would be long. Marshal Rudd arrived first, rode up just as the sun cleared the horizon, had another man with him, federal deputy, official backup. McCrae, Miss Hart. Rudd dismounted, looked them both over. How are you holding up? Still standing, Caleb said. That's all we need. Rudd gestured to his companion. This is Deputy Marshal Carson. He'll be riding with us. Official federal presence. Makes it harder for Wade to claim this is just local politics. Carson nodded. Quiet man. Competent looking. The kind who didn't need to talk much to convey authority. Dr. Garrett arrived next, riding slow on an old horse that looked as tired as he did, but his medical bag was strapped secure, his documentation prepared. Doctor, Caleb greeted. Caleb, Eliza. The doctor dismounted with a groan. Getting too old for this much riding. You didn't have to come, Eliza said. Yes, the doctor replied. I did. Failed Margaret, not failing you. Ben Holloway came last. Surprised Caleb. The store owner had kept his head down for years, stayed out of trouble, but here he was riding out to stand witness. Ben, Caleb said, what if I freeze when it comes time to speak? What if I can't? Then I'll speak for you, Caleb said. What if nobody listens? Then we tried. That's all anyone can do. Is it enough? Just trying? Caleb thought about Sarah, about Margaret, about all the times trying hadn't been enough. No, he said. Honest. Sometimes trying isn't enough. Sometimes you try and you fail and people get hurt anyway. But not trying guarantees failure. Trying at least gives a chance. Eliza nodded, quiet, processing. They rode on. Around mid-morning they crested a rise and saw Cameron spread out below, bigger than Tuba City, more buildings, more people, more everything. And gathered in the main street, clearly visible even from a distance, was a crowd. Word got out, Rudd said, grim. Wade made sure of it. How many people? Dr. Garrett asked. 50 maybe, hard to say from here. 50 witnesses, 50 people already choosing sides. 50 potential jury members if this went to trial. Wade had been busy. They rode down into town slow, deliberate, not hiding, not rushing, just present. The crowd parted as they approached. Faces Caleb recognized, faces he didn't. All watching, all judging. Deputy Larkin stood near the courthouse steps, arms crossed, smile playing at his lips. And there, center of everything, stood Wade Hart. He looked the part. Concerned father, respectable citizen, wore his Sunday clothes, had that expression of patient suffering that made people want to comfort him. Beside him stood 3 men, lawyers by the look of them, official types, documentation in hand. Wade had brought an army, legal army, respectable army, the kind that won battles without firing shots. Caleb's group dismounted, tied their horses, faced the crowd. Marshal Rudd stepped forward. Federal authority. I'm Marshal Thomas Rudd, federal jurisdiction. This proceeding is under federal observation. Marshal, Wade said. Polite, respectful. I appreciate your presence. This is a family matter, but I want everything proper, everything legal. It's not a family matter, Eliza said, voice clear, carrying. It's a matter of abuse and survival. The crowd murmured, some sympathetic, some skeptical, most just watching to see what would happen. Wade's expression shifted, hurt, wounded. Eliza, honey, I know you're confused. I know you've created these stories in your mind, but I only want to help you. I'm not confused, Eliza said. I know exactly what you did, what you've been doing for 3 years. One of Wade's lawyers stepped forward. Tall man, gray beard, voice like gravel. Miss Hart, you're making serious accusations. Do you have any proof? I have my injuries, Eliza said. Injuries from a fall, the lawyer countered, as documented by the medical report. That report was forged, Dr. Garrett said, stepping forward. I never wrote it, never signed it. Someone falsified my medical records. The lawyer smiled, not friendly. Doctor, that's a serious counteraccusation. Can you prove it? Dr. Garrett pulled documents from his bag. I can prove I documented Miss Hart's injuries as consistent with assault. I can prove the signature on that forged report isn't mine. I can prove— You can prove you changed your story, the lawyer interrupted. When pressured by federal authorities, when influenced by local politics. I'm not— Dr. Garrett, the lawyer continued, voice smooth, professional. Isn't it true you've been treating Mr. McCrae? Isn't it true you have a financial relationship with him? Isn't it possible your medical judgment has been compromised? It was a lie, wrapped in enough truth to sound plausible. Dr. Garrett opened his mouth, closed it, struggled to find words that wouldn't sound defensive. Wade's lawyer had turned it around completely, made the doctor sound bought, made the evidence sound contaminated. Rudd stepped in. Mr. Wade Hart is under federal investigation for falsification of medical documents, for potential conspiracy, for— Potential, Wade's lawyer said. Investigation, no charges filed, no evidence presented, just accusations from interested parties. He gestured to Caleb. A rancher with no connection to this family suddenly taking in a young woman. A doctor with financial ties to that rancher. A federal marshal called in by the same rancher using a personal debt. The crowd shifted, murmured. The narrative was changing. Wade's people were good, very good. And as for Miss Hart, the lawyer continued, voice gentler now, sympathetic. A troubled young woman who lost her mother, who has documented history of confusion, who ran away from proper care and is now being encouraged in her delusions by people who should know better. I'm not delusional, Eliza said, voice shaking but determined. I know what happened to me. Of course you do, dear, the lawyer said, patronizing. And we want to help you, get you proper care, professional evaluation, help you separate reality from the stories you've created. It was masterful, dismissive without being cruel, concerned without being genuine, making Eliza sound crazy while claiming to help her. Caleb felt rage building. wanted to hit something, someone, wanted to tear down the wall of lies Wade had built. But violence would prove Wade's point, would make Caleb look unstable, would hand Wade the victory. "Let's hear from witnesses," Rudd said, trying to regain control. "People who can speak to Wade Hart's character, to his history." "Excellent idea," Wade's lawyer agreed. Too quickly, too easily. They'd prepared for this too. One by one, people stepped forward, testifying for Wade, the church pastor. "Wade Hart is a pillar of our community, generous, devoted. Lost his first wife to a tragic accident and never spoke ill of anyone." The banker. "Mr. Hart is a man of integrity, sound finances, respected businessman. I've never seen anything but proper conduct." A neighbor. "Wade loved Margaret, was devastated when she died, has tried to care for Eliza like his own daughter despite her difficulties." Each testimony careful, measured, painting Wade as a saint suffering unjust accusations. When they finished, the lawyer turned to Rudd. "Your turn, Marshal. Present your witnesses." Ben Holloway stepped forward, nervous, hands shaking, but determined. "My daughter," he said, voice rough. 10 years ago. She left town sudden. Wouldn't say why. Last year she finally told me. Said Wade Hart. Said he touched her inappropriate, in my store. Threatened her if she told." "Your daughter who isn't here," the lawyer asked, "who can't testify, who might have her own reasons for making accusations." "She's not here because she's afraid," Ben said. "Afraid of him, of what he might do." "Or afraid her lies would be exposed," the lawyer countered. "Hearsay, Marshal, not admissible, not credible." Ben's face fell. He'd mustered all his courage to speak, and it was being dismissed as gossip. Mrs. Carson tried next. "Margaret Hart, Wade's first wife. I knew her. She changed those last months. Got quiet, stopped coming to socials, wore high collars even in summer." "People change," the lawyer said. "Grief, illness, depression, none of that proves abuse." "I saw bruises." "You saw what you interpreted as bruises. Did Mrs. Hart ever tell you directly that her husband hurt her?" Mrs. Carson hesitated. "No, but—" "Then you're speculating, assuming, not testifying to facts." One by one their witnesses were discredited, not through evidence, through technique, through professional dismissal of anything that couldn't be proven absolutely. Dr. Garrett presented his new medical report, detailed, clinical, documenting Eliza's injuries. Wade's lawyer presented the forged report, equally detailed, equally clinical. "Two reports," the lawyer said. "Two interpretations. One from before federal pressure, one from after. Which is more reliable?" The crowd was shifting. Caleb could feel it. Wade was winning, not because he was right, because he was prepared, because he had resources, because the system was designed to protect men like him. Eliza stood silent through it all, watching her truth be dismantled, watching her voice be dismissed. Finally Wade himself spoke, addressing the crowd directly. "I love Eliza," he said, voice breaking perfectly. "Like my own daughter. When her mother died, I promised to care for her. And I have, despite her struggles, despite her episodes, despite everything." He turned to Eliza, eyes wet, performance flawless. "Come home, Eliza, please. Let me get you the help you need, the professional care. We can work through this together, as family." It was a trap. Perfect trap. If Eliza refused, she looked unstable. If she accepted, she was back in his control. Either way, Wade won. Eliza looked at Caleb, at Dr. Garrett, at the crowd of people who'd already decided what to believe. And Caleb saw something break in her, not her spirit, but her hope. The fragile hope that truth would matter, that speaking up would make a difference. She'd spoken, they all had, and it wasn't enough. "No," she said, quiet, defeated. "I won't go back." "Then I'm afraid we'll have to," Wade's lawyer started. "Wait," a voice called. Female voice, clear and sharp. The crowd parted. A woman walked through, older, 50 maybe, dressed in traveling clothes, dusty from the road. She looked familiar. Took Caleb a moment to place her. Then he saw Ben Holloway's face. Shock, recognition, hope. "Sarah," Ben whispered. The woman nodded. "Hi, Pa." Ben's daughter, the one who'd left 10 years ago, the one who'd written letters but never come home. She was here. Sarah Holloway stood in the center of the street, all eyes on her. She looked tired, like she'd ridden hard, but her eyes were clear, determined. "My name is Sarah Holloway," she said, voice carrying. "I left this town 10 years ago, left my father, left everything, because of Wade Hart." Wade's face went carefully neutral, but something flickered, just for a second. Concern, maybe fear. "Miss Holloway," Wade's lawyer started, "if you're here to make accusations—" "I'm here to testify," Sarah interrupted. "Under oath if needed. Federal witness if Marshal Rudd will have me." Rudd stepped forward immediately. "I'll have you. Tell us what happened." Sarah took a breath, steadied herself. "I was 16, working in my father's store. Wade Hart came in one afternoon. I was alone." The crowd went quiet, listening. "He told me I was growing up pretty. Told me I looked like his wife. Put his hand on my waist. Then higher. Then—" She stopped, swallowed. "I pushed him away. Ran to the back room." Wade's lawyer opened his mouth. Sarah raised her hand. "He followed me," she continued. "Told me nobody would believe me if I told. Told me he was a respected man. Told me I was just a confused girl with an overactive imagination." The same words, the exact same dismissal Eliza had heard. "He didn't do everything he wanted," Sarah said. "Because my father came back. Wade left quick, acted like nothing happened." "Did you tell your father?" Rudd asked. "I tried. He asked if I was sure. If maybe I'd misunderstood. Wade was such a good man after all." She looked at Ben. No accusation. Just sadness. "I couldn't make him believe me. So I left. Went to California. Started over." "Why come back now?" Rudd asked. "Because my father wrote me. Told me about Eliza. Told me federal investigation. Told me maybe someone would finally listen." She turned to Eliza. "I came back because someone has to stop him, and I'm tired of running." Wade's lawyer recovered quickly. "Miss Holloway, this alleged incident was 10 years ago. You never filed a report, never made an official complaint, and you admit your own father didn't believe you." "Because I was 16 and he was a powerful man," Sarah said. "Same reason Eliza can't get people to believe her now." "Or," the lawyer suggested, "because nothing actually happened, because you're misremembering, or lying." "I'm not lying. Can you prove it?" Sarah hesitated. Caleb could see her struggle. "How do you prove something that happened in private with no witnesses years ago?" "I can't prove it," she admitted. "Not the way you mean, but I'm telling the truth." "Truth is not the same as proof," the lawyer said. Dismissive, moving on. But something had shifted. The crowd was murmuring, uncertain now. One accusation could be dismissed. Two from different women, different times, started to look like a pattern. Wade stepped forward, addressing Sarah directly. "I'm sorry you felt uncomfortable that day. If I said or did anything that made you feel that way, I apologize. But I never intended—" "You intended exactly what happened," Sarah said, cold. "And you knew I couldn't stop you." Wade's mask slipped, just for a second, anger flashing before he controlled it. "This is a distraction," Wade's lawyer said. "Ancient history, unprovable accusations. We're here about Eliza Hart, about her current well-being." "Her current well-being depends on keeping her away from you," Sarah said, "just like mine did." Dr. Garrett stepped forward. "Marshal, I have something else. Something I should have brought forward years ago." He pulled out another file. Older, worn. "Margaret Hart's medical records," he said. "Complete. All 3 visits. All documenting injuries consistent with assault. All dismissed as accidents." "We've been over this," Wade's lawyer said. Injuries can have multiple explanations. Let me finish, Dr. Garrett interrupted, steel in his voice. I also have records from before Wade married Margaret, when she was still Margaret Williams. Treated her twice. Minor issues, no injuries, no accidents, healthy young woman. He set out the timeline. Visual. Clear. Before Wade, no injuries. During marriage to Wade, 3 documented injuries in 6 months. After his first visit following her mother's death, Eliza multiple injuries over 3 years. He looked at the crowd. That's not coincidence. That's pattern. Correlation is not causation, the lawyer said. Automatic. Practiced. No, Dr. Garrett agreed. But when a woman shows up with injuries that match assault patterns, when she says her husband hurt her, when she dies 6 months later from falling downstairs, when the next woman in that house shows the same injuries, the same patterns, the same fear. He paused. That's not correlation. That's evidence. The crowd was shifting, really shifting now. Multiple testimonies, medical evidence, pattern of behavior. Wade's armor was cracking. These accusations are outrageous, Wade said, voice tight. Controlled fury beneath. I've been nothing but patient, nothing but understanding, but this has gone too far. He turned to Deputy Larkin. Deputy, I want these people arrested. Caleb McCrae for kidnapping, Dr. Garrett for defamation, and I want Eliza returned to my custody. Immediately. Larkin smiled, finally getting to do what he'd wanted. Mr. Hart, I'd be happy, Deputy Marshal Rudd said. You don't have jurisdiction here. This is a federal matter now. Federal matter, Larkin laughed. On what grounds? Falsification of federal medical documents, Rudd said. Interstate witness intimidation, potential civil rights violations. He pulled out papers, official federal warrants. Wade Hart, you're under federal investigation. You will not be arresting anyone. You will not be taking custody of anyone. You will be answering questions. Wade's face went red, then white, control slipping. You can't, he started. I can, Rudd said. And I am. Federal authority supersedes local. You want a challenge that you take it to federal court. Wade's lawyers were whispering urgently, calculating, trying to find the legal angle that would protect their client. But they were losing. For the first time, they were actually losing. The crowd sensed it, started murmuring louder, discussing, debating. Some still defended Wade. Habit, reputation, comfortable lies. But others were questioning, looking at Eliza with new eyes, looking at the evidence, starting to wonder. That's when Wade made his mistake. Enough, he said, loud, commanding, the voice of a man used to being obeyed. This is my family, my business, my stepdaughter. I've been patient. I've been reasonable. But I will not stand here and be accused by whores and liars and confused women who don't know their own minds. The word hung in the air. Whores. Sarah flinched. Eliza went pale, but neither backed down. There it is, Sarah said. Quiet. That's the real Wade Hart, not the respectable citizen, the man who calls women whores when they dare speak against him. Wade's lawyer grabbed his arm. Mr. Hart, don't say anything else. Wade shook him off. I won't be silenced by this circus, by this conspiracy of bitter women and federal overreach. He pointed at Caleb. You started this, filling Eliza's head with nonsense, turning her against her family. You're the criminal here. No, Caleb said, calm, steady. I just gave her a safe place to tell the truth. You're angry because the truth is finally being heard. The truth? Wade laughed. Ugly sound. The truth is, Eliza is disturbed, has been since her mother died. I've tried to help her, tried to get her care, but she refuses, creates fantasies, makes accusations. Like Margaret? Dr. Garrett asked. Quiet, dangerous. Did she create fantasies too? Before you killed her? The crowd gasped. Someone saying it plainly. No hedging. No maybe. Direct accusation. Wade went very still. I did not kill my wife. She died of internal injuries, Dr. Garrett said. consistent with being beaten, fell downstairs, convenient stairs, convenient explanation. You signed the death certificate, Wade shot back. You said accidental death. You said, I lied, Dr. Garrett said. Simple. True. I was afraid of you, of your influence. So I lied. I called it an accident when I knew it wasn't. I signed my name to a lie because it was easier than facing the truth. The silence was complete, everyone staring at the doctor. But I'm not lying anymore, Dr. Garrett continued. Margaret Hart was murdered. By you. And I covered it up. And I will regret that until I die. But I won't cover up what you're doing to Eliza. Not this time. Wade's control shattered. You senile old fool. You have no proof, no evidence, just guilt making you see ghosts. I have my memory, Dr. Garrett said. I have medical training. I have 30 years of seeing what violence looks like. And I have Margaret's body, still buried, still able to be exhumed, still able to prove what really killed her. Wade froze, completely froze, because that was something he hadn't prepared for. The thought that Margaret's body could tell stories, could prove what he'd done. You can't, he started. Federal authority can, Rudd said, if there's sufficient cause, and doctor's testimony provides that cause. I can request exhumation, have federal medical examiners review the remains, determine actual cause of death. Wade's lawyers were pale now, whispering frantically. This had gone beyond defending a client. This had become damage control. My client will not answer further questions without legal consultation, the lead lawyer said, professional, controlled. And we protest this entire proceeding, federal overreach, biased witnesses, conspiracy to defame. Save it for the judge, Rudd said. Mr. Hart, you're officially a person of interest in a federal investigation. You will make yourself available for questioning. You will not leave the territory. You will not approach Eliza Hart or any witnesses. This is outrageous, Wade said, but his voice had lost its power, lost its certainty. He looked at Eliza, really looked at her, and Caleb saw it, the calculation, the realization that his control was slipping. Eliza, Wade said. Different tone now, softer, almost pleading. You know I love you. You know I've only tried to help. Come home. We can work this out. Family. Eliza looked at him, the man who'd hurt her, terrorized her, made her question her own reality. You're not family, she said. Clear, strong. You're the man who killed my mother's husband, who hurt me, who would have killed me too if I'd stayed. Your mother's husband. Wade's face twisted. Your mother married me. I am. You're nothing, Eliza said. You're a man who hurts women, who hides behind respect and money and lies. But you're nothing. It was the moment, the one Caleb had been waiting for. Eliza taking back her voice, her power, her truth. Wade saw it too, saw that he'd lost her, lost control. And like all abusers who lose control, he turned to rage. You ungrateful little... He lunged forward. 3 things happened simultaneously. Caleb moved, stepped between Wade and Eliza, hand on his sidearm. Marshal Rudd drew his weapon, pointed at Wade. Step back. Now. And Eliza pulled out the small pistol Caleb had given her, the one she'd practiced with, aimed it steady at Wade. Stay away from me, she said. I'm not afraid to shoot. Wade stopped, looked at the gun, looked at Eliza's face, saw that she meant it. The crowd scattered, people backing away, not wanting to be in the line of fire. Deputy Larkin drew his weapon, but he was pointing it at Caleb, not Wade. Everyone put down your weapons. This is getting out of hand, Deputy Rudd said, still calm, still in control. Lower your weapon. You're interfering with a federal matter. This is my jurisdiction. Not anymore, Rudd said. Federal authority supersedes. Stand down, now. Larkin hesitated, torn between loyalty to Wade and not wanting to shoot a federal marshal. The moment stretched, tense, dangerous. Then Wade raised his hands, slow, careful. "Everyone calm down," he said. "Back to reasonable, back to controlled. This has gotten out of hand. Let's all just calm down." He looked at Rudd. "Marshal, I will cooperate with your investigation, fully, but I insist on proper legal procedure, proper representation. This mob justice ends now." It was a retreat, tactical retreat. Wade recognizing he'd lost this battle, repositioning for the war. "Agreed," Rudd said. "Everyone lower your weapons. We do this properly, legally. No more confrontations." Slowly, carefully, weapons were lowered. The tension eased, slightly. Wade looked at Eliza one more time, and Caleb saw it in his eyes. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. "You'll regret this," Wade said, quiet, to Eliza. "All of you will." Then he turned, walked to his horse, lawyers following, Deputy Larkin trailing behind. The crowd watched them go, talking, arguing, processing what they'd just witnessed. Caleb turned to Eliza. She was shaking, gun still in her hand, adrenaline wearing off, reality crashing in. "You did good," he said. "You stood up. You spoke truth." "Did it matter?" she asked. "He's still free, still powerful, still—" "It mattered," Sarah Holloway said, coming to stand beside them. "It mattered because now people heard. Now it's public. Now he can't hide." Ben Holloway hugged his daughter, first time in 10 years, both of them crying. Dr. Garrett sat down on the courthouse steps, suddenly exhausted, confession and testimony taking everything out of him. Marshal Rudd came over. "Miss Hart, you'll need to make a formal statement, full testimony, everything documented." "Will it be enough?" Eliza asked. "To stop him?" "Don't know yet," Rudd admitted. "But it's a start. Better than silence." They gathered together. The small group who'd stood against Wade Hart, who'd spoken truth when it was dangerous, who'd risked everything. The battle wasn't won, but they'd survived the first engagement. And that was something. Cameron had a small boarding house. Mrs. Fletcher ran it. Older woman, no-nonsense type. She took one look at the group and sighed. "Rooms are $2 a night," she said. "Breakfast included, no fighting, no drinking, no trouble." "We can manage that," Rudd said. She looked at Eliza. Something in her face softened. "You're the girl, the one from the street." "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Fletcher nodded. "My sister was married to a man like that, like Wade Hart, respectable, church-going, beat her black and blue when nobody was looking." She paused. "She didn't survive it, so you take the best room, no charge, and anyone tries to bother you, you scream. I sleep light." Eliza's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." "Thank me by living," Mrs. Fletcher said. "Thank me by getting away from that man and living a good life. That's the thanks I want." They settled into rooms. Caleb and Rudd shared one. Dr. Garrett took another. Ben and Sarah Holloway together making up for lost years. Eliza in the best room as promised. Deputy Carson posted himself outside, Federal Guard, making sure Wade didn't try anything overnight. Caleb stood at his window, watching the street, watching for trouble. "You did good today," Rudd said, sitting on his bed, cleaning his gun. "Stood between her and danger. That takes courage." "Or stupidity," Caleb said. "Sometimes they're the same thing." Rudd set down the gun. "Winter wash. When you came across that ice for me, that was stupid too. Ice was breaking. You could have died." "You would have died for sure if I hadn't." "Exactly," Rudd said. "Sometimes stupid is the only option. Sometimes you do the dangerous thing because not doing it means living with worse consequences." Caleb thought about that, about Sarah's promise, about living with the consequences of staying silent. "You really think you can build a case," he asked, "against Wade?" "I think I can try," Rudd said. "Got Sarah's testimony, got the doctor's evidence, got the pattern, got the forged medical report." He paused. "But Wade's got money, got lawyers, got influence. This goes to trial, it'll be a fight. And if you can't prove it, If a jury doesn't convict, then we lost, Rudd said. Simple, true. But at least we fought. At least we stood up and said, this isn't right. That matters even when you lose. A knock at the door. Caleb tensed, hand going to his gun. It's me, Dr. Garrett's voice. Need to talk. Caleb opened the door. The doctor looked terrible, exhausted, aged 10 years in 1 day. What is it? Caleb asked. I need to tell you something about Margaret. Dr. Garrett came in, sat heavily. Something I didn't say in front of everyone. Rudd leaned forward. What? The night Margaret died, before I signed the death certificate. I examined her body fully, professional examination. Found something. He paused, struggling. Found what? Rudd pressed. Evidence of long-term abuse, old injuries, healed fractures, scarring consistent with repeated trauma. Dr. Garrett's voice shook. And evidence of recent assault, the kind that would have been agonizing, the kind that might make someone fall downstairs trying to get away. The room went very quiet. You're saying Wade, Caleb started. I'm saying Margaret's final hours were hell, Dr. Garrett said. I'm saying whatever he did to her that night, it was bad enough that dying might have been a relief. And I'm saying I knew, I saw the evidence, and I still signed accidental death on that certificate. Why? Rudd asked, not judging, just asking. Because I was afraid, Dr. Garrett said. Wade was there, standing over me, crying, playing the grieving husband. And I knew if I said what I really thought, if I called it murder, he'd destroy me. My practice, my reputation, everything. He looked at his hands, old hands, trembling hands. So I chose my comfort over her justice. I chose safety over truth. I let him get away with murder because it was easier than fighting him. And now, Caleb asked. Now I'm ready to fight, Dr. Garrett said. I'm ready to testify to everything, the evidence I saw, the conclusions I should have drawn, all of it. That's a criminal confession, Rudd said, covering up a murder. You could face charges. I know. Dr. Garrett met his eyes. But I'm old. Don't have many years left. Rather spend them paying for my sins than running from them. Rudd nodded, respect in his expression. Your testimony about Margaret's body, about the evidence you saw, that could be enough to get exhumation approval. Federal medical examiner could verify your observations. If there's anything left to verify, Dr. Garrett said. She's been buried 5 years. Bodies can tell stories even years later, Rudd said. Bone trauma, healed fractures, pattern of injuries, won't prove murder definitively, but might prove enough to add weight to the case. There was another knock, softer this time. Come in, Caleb called. Eliza pushed open the door. She was wrapped in a shawl, hair down, looking young and scared. I can't sleep, she said. Keep thinking he'll come through the window, that he'll... She stopped, swallowed. Can't get my mind to settle. Mrs. Fletcher's watching, Caleb said. Deputy Carson's outside. You're safe. Safe, Eliza repeated, like the word didn't make sense. Will I ever feel actually safe again? None of them had an answer to that, because they all knew the truth. Even if Wade went to prison, even if justice was served, the trauma didn't just vanish. The fear didn't just stop. Come sit, Dr. Garrett said, patting the chair beside him. Let me tell you something. Eliza sat, wary but trusting. I've been a doctor for 30 years, he said. Seen a lot of people heal from a lot of things, and the one thing I've learned, the one truth that holds across everything, is that healing isn't the same as forgetting. He paused, making sure she heard him. You're going to carry this, he continued. What Wade did, what you survived. You'll carry it your whole life. Some days it'll be heavy, some days lighter, but it'll always be there. That's not comforting, Eliza said. No, he agreed. But it's honest. And what I want you to know is that carrying it doesn't mean you're broken. Doesn't mean you failed. Means you survived something that should have destroyed you, and you're still here, still fighting. That's not weakness, that's strength." Eliza was quiet, processing. "Margaret didn't make it," Dr. Garrett said, soft, painful. "She carried it until she couldn't anymore, until Wade took away even the option of survival. But you got out. You found people who believed you, who stood with you. You have a chance she didn't have." "But what if it's not enough?" Eliza asked. "What if Wade gets away with it anyway? What if—" "Then you still survived," Dr. Garrett said. "Then you still spoke truth. Then you still fought. And that matters. Even when you lose, fighting matters." They sat together, 4 people bound by trauma and determination, by regret and hope, by the simple refusal to let evil win without a fight. Outside, Cameron settled into night, quiet, peaceful, unaware of the war being waged in its streets, and somewhere in that darkness, Wade Hart was planning his next move. Wade sat in his hotel room, the expensive one, the one that made a statement about who he was, what he deserved. His lawyers sat across from him, 3 of them, cost a fortune collectively, but worth it. They'd gotten him out of worse situations. "The federal investigation is a problem," the lead lawyer said. "Blunt, professional. Marshall Rudd is competent. He's building a real case." "Then tear it down," Wade said. "Cold, controlled. The rage from earlier buried deep. That's what I pay you for. We can challenge the medical evidence, question Dr. Garrett's credibility, argue that he's biased, compromised, senile even." The lawyer consulted his notes. "But Sarah Holloway's testimony is damaging, establishes pattern, corroborates Eliza's claims." "Sarah Holloway is a woman who left town 10 years ago," Wade said. "A woman with a grudge, a woman who clearly has mental instability. She ran away from her father, from her life. That speaks to character problems." "We can argue that," the lawyer agreed. "But pattern is pattern. Jury hears 2 separate women, separate incidents, same type of accusations. That's hard to dismiss." Wade stood, moved to the window, looked out at Cameron, at the courthouse where tomorrow they'd resume. "Then we change the pattern," he said. "We show that Eliza has a history of lying, of making false accusations, of instability." "How?" the lawyer asked. Wade smiled. Not the warm public smile, the private one, the one that meant someone was about to hurt. "There was an incident," he said, 2 years ago, before I married Eliza's mother. Eliza accused a stable hand of touching her inappropriately, created a whole story, had everyone believing it. This was news to the lawyers. They leaned forward. "What happened?" the lead asked. "Turned out she'd made it up," Wade said. "Smooth, practiced. The stable hand had witnesses, proved he was nowhere near her when she claimed it happened. Eliza had to recant, apologize. It was very embarrassing for everyone. It was a lie. Beautiful lie. Completely fabricated. But who could disprove it? The stable hand was dead. Had been for a year. Convenient. The witnesses Wade would produce were all people who owed him favors, who'd say whatever he needed. If we can establish prior false accusations, the lawyer said, thinking it through, that undermines her credibility, makes the jury question whether this time is any different. Exactly, Wade said. And we don't stop there. We get medical experts, psychiatrists, people who can testify to Eliza's mental state, her delusions, her need for professional care. That's a solid defense strategy, the lawyer agreed. Attack the credibility, establish pattern of false accusations, present alternative explanation. Wade turned from the window. And we press charges against Caleb McCrae, kidnapping, contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Whatever we can make stick, force him to defend himself, distract from the main case. Risky, another lawyer said. Could look like retaliation, or like a concerned father protecting his rights, Wade countered. Depends on how we frame it. The lawyers exchanged glances. They knew what Wade was, known it from the start, but they were being paid very well not to care. There's another issue, the lead lawyer said. Marshal Rudd mentioned exhuming Margaret's body. If they get approval, if they find evidence, they won't find anything. Wade interrupted. Margaret died 5 years ago. Decomposition, time, whatever evidence there might have been is long gone. Dr. Garrett claims he saw evidence at the time. If federal examiners corroborate, then we attack Garrett harder, point out he's changing his story, point out he signed the death certificate saying accident, point out he's now contradicting his own professional judgment from 5 years ago, makes him look unreliable. Wade moved back to his chair, sat, controlled, in charge. Gentlemen, I've built a life on reputation, on respect, on being the man everyone trusts. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens by being smarter, being more careful, being more prepared than everyone else. He leaned forward. They think they can destroy me with accusations and emotions and sob stories. But I have resources. I have allies. I have the law on my side. We just have to play it right. What about Eliza? One lawyer asked. If she testifies directly, if she tells her story to a jury, then we make her look unstable, Wade said. Simple. We bring up the prior false accusation. We bring up her mother's death and the trauma. We bring up mental health professionals who'll say she's suffering from delusions. We make the jury see a confused, troubled young woman who needs help, not a victim of abuse. It was textbook abuse tactics. Isolate, discredit, make the victim look crazy, make yourself look concerned. And it worked. Worked terrifyingly often. Tomorrow, Wade said, when we go back to court, we go on offense. No more defending. We attack. We make them defend their witnesses, their evidence, their credibility. The lawyers nodded, taking notes, building strategy. And if we lose, one asked. If despite everything a jury believes them? Wade was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was cold, empty. Then I exercise my right to leave the territory. Mexico is close. Canada is an option. I have resources in both. I can start over. That's admitting guilt, the lawyer said. No, Wade corrected. That's recognizing a rigged system. That's refusing to let federal overreach destroy an innocent man. That's the narrative we sell if it comes to that. He stood, meeting over. Get some rest, gentlemen. Tomorrow we start fighting back, and when I fight back I win. Always have, always will. The lawyers filed out, left Wade alone in his expensive room. He poured himself whiskey, expensive whiskey, the kind that tasted like success. Thought about Eliza, about Margaret before her, about all the women who'd thought they could defy him, thought they could escape. They were always wrong. Power wasn't about strength, wasn't about violence. That was just tools. Power was about control, about knowing the system, about having resources. And Wade had more power than any of them understood. Tomorrow they'd learn that lesson. Tomorrow he'd remind them all who really controlled this situation. That same night, Dr. Garrett sat in his room, couldn't sleep, kept thinking about Margaret, about the night she died, about what he'd seen and what he'd signed. He pulled out his old journal, the one he'd been keeping since medical school. Personal notes, cases that stuck with him, reminders of failures and successes. Found the entry from November 14, 1882. He'd written it late, after signing the death certificate, after Wade had left, after the body had been taken away. Called to Hart residence tonight. Found Margaret Hart at bottom of stairs, still alive but fading, massive internal bleeding, too extensive to stop. Wade claims she fell, but the injuries don't match. Bruising on ribs, back, abdomen, defensive wounds on arms, recent trauma to pelvic region. She died holding my hand, whispered something I couldn't quite hear, looked terrified even as life left her. I should have said something, should have questioned the false story, should have demanded investigation. But Wade is powerful, well-liked. To accuse him without absolute proof would destroy my practice, my credibility, everything I've built. So I signed the certificate. Accidental death. May God forgive me because I will never forgive myself." Dr. Garrett closed the journal, hands shaking. He'd written it all down, documented his own cowardice, his own failure. But he'd also documented the truth, what he'd really seen, what he'd really thought. This journal could be evidence, could corroborate his testimony, could show he'd known the truth even while lying officially. Or it could destroy him, prove he'd knowingly falsified a death certificate, make him criminally liable. He thought about burning it, destroying the evidence of his failure. But that would be running again, hiding again, choosing comfort over truth. He'd done that once with Margaret, wouldn't do it with Eliza. A knock on his door, soft, hesitant. "Doctor," Sarah Holloway's voice. "Can I come in?" "Of course." Sarah entered, looked around the small room, saw the journal open on the desk. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "Too many ghosts," Dr. Garrett said. Sarah sat in the other chair, quiet for a moment. Then, "Tell me about Margaret, about what really happened." So he did, all of it, the 3 visits before her death, the injuries that didn't match the explanations, the final night, the evidence he saw, and the lies he signed. Sarah listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet, processing. "I was 17 when Margaret died," she said finally. "Remembered her funeral, Wade crying, everyone comforting him, talking about what a tragedy it was." She paused, remembering. "I remember thinking, that could have been me. If he'd been more successful that day in the store, if my father hadn't come back, that could have been me in that casket." "I'm sorry," Dr. Garrett said, "for not protecting her, for not protecting you." "You're protecting Eliza now," Sarah said. "That counts. Does it enough?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "But it's something. It's fighting instead of running. It's speaking instead of staying silent." They sat together, 2 people carrying different pieces of the same guilt. "Doctor," Sarah said eventually, "that journal, what you wrote, that's evidence. I know. Evidence that could help Eliza, but also evidence that